Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Yate Bennett. Uh, let's go ahead and get started this morning. Oh, I forgot this is a. All right, well, let's just go get started and then see if we have a quorum. Good morning, everyone. Yate Bennett. Thank you very much for being with us this morning. This is the Naabik'íyáti Committee of the 24th Navajo Nation Council. We're having a special meeting today via telecommunications. We're here in Window Rock, Arizona on the Navajo Nation. I do have Honorable Edison Winika here with us, Office Speaker Staff, Office of Legislative Services. Today's date is Thursday, June 3rd, 2021. The time now is again, actually 10:06 a.m. We do have a proposed agenda here before us. Presiding is myself, Seth Damon, Speaker of the 24th Navajo Nation Council. This is a special meeting request from members of the Naabik'íyáti Committee in order to pass a couple of legislations and possibly send those to this afternoon. We'll have a special session at 2 o'clock, so we have to end the Naabik'íyáti Committee meeting at 1:59 in order for us to move forward on that. So we did call the meeting to order. Let's go to see if we have a roll quorum. We'll ask Ms. Bella to do a roll call, and then we'll move on from there. So again, thank you everyone for listening in this morning. Kat.
Honorable Elmer Begay. Honorable Elmer Begay. Honorable Elmer Begay did not enter roll call. Honorable Kealan Begay Jr. Honorable Kealan Begay Jr. Honorable Kealan Begay Jr. did not enter roll call. Honorable Paul Begay Jr.
Delegate Paul Begay is present.
Honorable Paul Begay Jr. entered roll call. Honorable Nathaniel Brown.
Delegate Brown is present.
Honorable Nathaniel Brown entered roll call. Honorable Regina Charles Newton. Honorable Regina Charles Newton. Honorable Regina Charles Newton did not enter roll call. Honorable Amber Canespa-Crotty. Honorable Amber Canespa-Crotty. Honorable Amber Canespa-Crotty did not enter roll call. Honorable Speaker Damon. Honorable Speaker Damon. Honorable Speaker Damon entered roll call. Honorable Herman Daniels. Honorable Herman Daniels Jr. Honorable Herman Daniels Jr. did not enter roll call. Honorable Mark Freeland.
Present. Yes.
Honorable Mark Freeland entered roll call. Honorable Panal Halona. Honorable Panal Halona.
Stallone is present. Thank you. Good morning.
Honorable Panal Halona entered roll call. Honorable Jamie Henyo. Honorable Jamie Henyo. Honorable Jamie Henyo did not enter roll call. Honorable Vince James. Honorable Vince James.
Delegate James present.
Honorable Vince James entered roll call. Honorable Ricky Nez. Honorable Ricky Nez. Honorable Ricky Nez did not enter roll call. Honorable Carl Slater. Honorable Carl Slater. Honorable Carl Slater did not enter roll call. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr.
Present.
Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. entered roll call. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr.
Present.
Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. entered roll call. Honorable Charlene So.
Delegate So present.
Honorable Charlene So entered roll call. Honorable Daniel So. Honorable Daniel So. Honorable Daniel So did not enter roll call. Honorable Eugene So. Honorable Eugene So.
I'm here. Thank you, Joe.
Honorable Eugene So entered roll call. Honorable Otto So. Honorable Otto So. Honorable Otto So did not enter roll call. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr.
Otto So is present.
Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. did not answer roll call. Honorable Otto So answered roll call. Honorable Edison Winika. Honorable Edison Winika. Honorable Edison Winika did not answer roll call. Honorable Edmund Yazzie. Honorable Edmund Yazzie. Honorable Edmund Yazzie did not answer roll call. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair.
I'm here.
Jimmy
Good
Yellowhair.
morning.
Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair answered roll call. Going back up, Honorable Alma Begay. Honorable Alma Begay. Honorable Alma Begay did not answer roll call. Honorable Keon Begay Jr. Honorable Keon Begay Jr. Honorable Keon Begay Jr. did not answer roll call. Honorable Regina Charles Newton. Honorable Regina Charles Newton. Honorable Regina Charles Newton did not answer roll call. Honorable Amber Kenneth Barclay. Honorable Amber Kenneth Barclay. Honorable Amber Kenneth Barclay did not answer roll call. Honorable Herman Daniels Jr.
Good morning. I'm here.
Honorable Herman Daniels Jr. answered roll call. Honorable Jamie Henyo. Honorable Jamie Henyo. Honorable Jamie Henyo did not answer roll call. Honorable Ricky Nance. Honorable Ricky Nance. Honorable Ricky Nance did not answer roll call. Honorable Carl Slater. Honorable Carl Slater. Honorable Carl Slater did not answer roll call. Honorable Daniel So. Honorable Daniel So. Honorable Daniel So did not answer roll call. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. did not answer roll call. Honorable Edison Winika. Honorable Edison Winika. Honorable Edison Winika did not answer roll call. Honorable Edmund Yazzie. Honorable Edmund Yazzie. Honorable Edmund Yazzie did not answer roll call. With that, Mr. Speaker, you have 13 members that answered roll call. Mr. Speaker?
Delegate Rick Nez on the call. Thank you.
Honorable Ricky Nez answered roll call. Mr. Speaker, with that, you have 14 members that answered roll
Here.
call. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much.
This is W. Winika.
That we have 14 members plus seems like we have Honorable Winika too as well. Good morning, Honorable Winika. So that makes 15 members present. Let's go ahead and continue on. Colleagues, thank you very much for being here with us. Thank you very much for being on the line, everybody listening in. Let me go to Honorable Vince James. Honorable James, you mind doing the invocation this morning for us?
Yeah, there's another speaker, and then members of the council. Those at Kahasi, those at the Quado to the Zendanigi, be Shaho Agi, the Natchin to the Zendanigi, Eya Ibe Yashkit or Leto Shahashins Adi, another speaker. But then was on the home must try the name Dico, quite chaos is car has any. Quado look at Kedo, it's sort of Zendanigi, Hashin so Ibe, Yanashkit all this. Wade ni yaje and suing strong anand no kunza the AI. Ishas dosh is hold jishako. Ado in the honde. Ni hit systems in the league, sus nudging so just go see the bench now district all there. Ito AA ni kaya lunigi ni hilan lunigi sa ako. Na hoka the internet. Akot go AA hashin so a. Ni hik dini ta holo as out the net ni glido adon ya ni hitra ni hija ni glon patashil china honde the steel senali bi un ke honite out ya it o ha huge hawan leni senel as there's hotes ado hawan maz hotes ado unda kin yad hawan pata hojoni. What are Kodo Hashin so a neat la, he hip hot lenny that did clip Sitten lini yadat akot ni his na has anko. Ni hit so de zen lini gi be yadek na danskoi na danskoi. Dien bezad da hit ache khayshi akot ni hiran bi on en hinasa akot in hit so de zen lini gi be yel ki akoko. O hayuje na has toy ni hizani na has chine away na do chi anje na hol ago dig it out yet o hani you care honey and coco kwanza the hol just the con the hashin so the hajo pa ben si case hajo pa khayshin hot adola but the need lindo bit ni hita hol jishin le coco awana neno o con de o hayuje hashin ego na has ago nan gloshi bezinsa this is na hol nan gloshi nan set be honne be hostel be kaya hostel has anegi o hayu ni hidden the end lenegi nan gloshi be the holla o adon he one has age o hayuje his last so holla o ni his last so holla ni his the well jishin le o but not check honde adol le ni his last son lenegi banana shit any banana equode plato ilato inna yat eki itinilzena ein hifta hwel jishin le akoko is the last sort o hayuje e le totsna ado tot kai da hot up banana shite no sam kai da akoko benache e kon ado kon hini nago konza den hol jish akoko so the zenbe yadist sen lenigi as be that didn't need ni his na has ango kot ni his ta hwel jishin le akoko na che konde ni hiran lenigi as sin le biche hada he lieto biche e kon hinda he kaho na chen haschen bis honitlo bis ini nanigi ni hasta ni hasta na hasti atat na haschen ni hik ein leni ni hiran lenigi bis ni hanahi kaho ada kon hisna da honitlo adon hiran bitne ana hot ekoko hanata hatet ekoko as ada hot han hiran leni bi hanata hatet ni hisna has ekoko ni hit as sask esta holo bi hato yihi holo ekoko benach adot aje na hitaho ado ha yeho na nishat hiki na ni idol chokot in sa kesi benach ikon so tezun lenigi be shaho aiki benach enashni dolis adot hanane diedo adot hayiska lede haia do kon o as adot kon hashin so o as do hadin doshin ya not to as o senane do ji ko ado hanada hilieho ni ina hotol chiko ya la kot ya kui benen halo ya ba he huinzen ba he nizen ya la ina yat higi bi na BJ yan he hanai kando BJ hana ot ko konza ina ni he ina sala ni hinche nischen hein la hegi in sa case rat hegi chokot in he hinda konza ba he nitzen he hat inna nitzen he hat la kodo inna nitzen to konta na di zat asla na ke ka na del ka don no wache kot out ba he huin zeniki benachet kon o asiki hinjono o asipi kon so the zeniki be hasi dole o hayujen he leni adole yetedanle nal sos dot is na tabakhaiki yat hon hosa dole yat ben hajina patole o hayujen hala beteni leni ben hajina patole kodonat ani nitle nanit ado andan hinad need none need labor konza den hidden na da is no ikon pa yis to sato e hezad lenipa a large it kon pa khadita ko jan pa che de tato jan de hoben na hajo ha to ben na to hajo o wastante konza to hold this it abenil so do benil anit hinanishin leni il kodo na leni ki nat ani itle na nishin leni ki hot out als honje benach kodo na ne state na ne is adat a date kon enashni doles ni hik leni date nishigi Skonja Benashni Dole, a Jingo, or Hedita, safety in Lenigi, Ben Haakamiado, Ben Hiketen, Dole, what out a icon quite chaos is car has any, now wait the agent need link on sweet need link or icon so the Lenigi, da Ben Soido Benish, and it out icon, be Anana Street Dole ha, a shut now cosmic knee as knee. So it's not just so just like or see the Ben just not this all in no stand yet, this hit this stand, twitch stand, Charles Gate, Hayos Khan. Nehot Sujohana A Hashayaski Hashawa, not that screen, not that so. Kadin and Anisa now go back a hojo, need link on that weight, the agent link or a hot it for the Zinzini, Bej Hanana Snake, Dole, Hojona Slink, Hojona Slink, Hojona Slink, Hojona Slink.
Thank you very much, Honorable James, for that invocation this morning. Thank you for moving forward on that. So we appreciate that. That, colleagues, let's go ahead and continue on item number 2, recognizing guests and visiting officials. Are there any recognitions this morning? Any recognitions?
Speaker, this is Dalian again.
Honorable BA is, the floor is yours for recognitions.
Speaker, good morning, Chair Ware, other members of the Naabik'íyáti committee. Desmond Anna Atlanido, Yate, and then people that are on the line listening too. So Yate, my recognition today, I just wanted to recognize my dad. He's my dad. I greet him as my dad. This morning I just came from the home place. I just wanted to let you know that the Christian Shepherd on Sunday, she's additional. Today is his funeral. His from Untitled Chapter was the council delegate for 24 years. The late Martin Scott Sr. Today is his funeral. So I'd like to recognize him and the family too. His wife Maggie Scott and the kids and the grandkids of Untitled Chapter. I don't know that he served it in the United States Marine Corps for 4 years, and he served it in the Korean War. So they're back in 1952 to 1955, 56. So he got served. I want to recognize him. So today, his funeral, he passed last Friday during the Memorial holiday. So then he served it on the Navajo Nation Council for almost 24 years. And I understand that he was a chairman for BNF, Budget and Finance Committee, too. So I thought we lost a great leader. Plus recognizing him and the family today, they're going to have a funeral service for him. So I just want to let you know. Then I came from there this morning, a speaker, just to let everybody, the leadership here, that we lost a great leader. But the Danish, including speaker, the staff, and the legislative branch, that to make it known that we lost a great leader, Mr. Martin Scott Sr. So, so I'm pretty sure some of you probably knew him and probably served it with him. Maybe you're from the past leaders, they served it with them too. So they know each other. So just to let you guys know, response to Anna Senido, the other on the line. So that'll be my announcement, and then also recognition to the chairway, the speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Alma Brigade.
Speaker
Thank you
Damon,
for-
this is Delegate Charles Newman.
Thank you for recognizing Mr. Scott's life and his leadership here. And we just want to send some information in regards to his family and know that we're with him in our prayers too as well. So thank you very much, Honorable Alma Brigade, for that recognition. That, for the record, Madam Chair Amber Crotty's on the line. I think Honorable Madam Chair Eugenia Charles Newton, did you have a question or?
Speaker, I just wanted to let you know I got on the line when you asked Delegate James to say the prayer or the invocation this morning.
Okay.
So I'm just letting you know I am online.
Okay. Thank you. Madam Chair Charles Newton is on the line too as well, for the record. That, colleagues, is there any other recognitions this morning?
Speaker.
Chairman Kealen's online.
Good morning, Honorable Kealan Begay. Jay, for the record, you're on the line. Any other recognitions this morning?
Mr. Chair, just as that.
Speaker.
Honorable Freeland, good morning. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Speaker. Colleagues on Tlenigi. Everyone listening in this morning, all of our Navajo Nation employees and all of our Navajo people throughout the great Navajo Nation, good morning to one and all. Speaker and colleagues, I wanted to this morning give a shout out to my 8 chapters, Crown Point. I'm here in Crown Point, Naabik'íyáti, Tse'ai, Vicente, White Rock, Lake Valley, Herfano, and Nayeze. We've been busy with planning meetings. It's been great to hear all the reports and get updates on progress being made out here in Eastern Navajo Agency. Wanted to also give a shout out to all the 23 other chapters as well out here in Eastern Navajo, all the people out here in Eastern Navajo, as well as throughout the great Navajo Nation. Just want to say good morning to one and all. Have a blessed and great day, Shanta, and everyone out there. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Freeland, those recognitions. That, moving on down, Honorable Herman Daniels.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much.
Recognitions.
Honorable members of Naabik'íyáti Committee members, Masenegi Kodoshnata, Masenegi Kodo, Adonana Kododa, Talias Kododa, Kodozunjuno Kodo, Hain Lido Ishin Kodo, the Nashani, lead of the nation, today, and not just today, but every day, Kododa, 81 Kodoba, like ADG. Adonana, I just want to express my gratitude to Division of Community Development, Kododa. I see Kododa, English Kododa, delivering heavy equipment to some of the chapters. And two of my chapters, one of my chapters got a heavy equipment last week, and tomorrow, Chanto, they're going to be getting their equipment. So Kododa, I just want to say thank you to Division of Community Development under the leadership of Element. I think a big shout out to Mr. Elmer Johnson for doing a wonderful job. Mr. Chair, thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Daniels, for that recognition. With that, colleagues, is there any other further recognitions at this time?
Good morning, Speaker Damon. This is Delegate Angel. I'm on the line.
Yes, good morning, Chairman.
Speaker Damon, Daniel So would like to offer recognition.
Okay, good morning, Chairman. The floor is yours at this time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is Chile. Ado, distinguished and honorable members of the 24th Navajo Nation Council, and all the folks that are on the line. I just want to offer recognition. I got notice that a member of the Navajo Nation, Ms. Heidi Todachini, has been appointed as special advisor to the Deputy Assistant Secretary within the Department of Interior. And naturally, I'm pleased, and we as Navajo people ought to also be pleased and strengthening our heart to know that we have a member of the Navajo Nation within the Department of Interior that basically will help us in guiding the issues that we all face. Right-of-ways for roads, water, lines, power lines, those aspects. We look to her to help us. She served as special counsel to Representative Deb Haaland at the time that Deb Haaland was Congresswoman. So that partnership moves on. Thank you, Facility Speaker, for allowing me to say those words.
Can you hear me now? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Chairman. Again, good morning to everyone out there, and thank you for that recognition and congratulations to the young lady there in DC. Colleagues, is there any other recognitions at this time?
Speaker Damon, Helena.
Yes, Honorable Helena.
Yes, good morning, sir, and good morning to all members of the 24th Navajo Nation Council, Naabik'íyáti Committee, and also all on the phone, on the line. I just wanted to recognize all the high school graduates who graduated on all the reservation schools across the nation here, Navajo Nation, and to encourage them to continue on with their education and thank them for their efforts in attending school and moving forward. And I know their families are all proud. I know I was proud of my granddaughter. She graduated this year. But I just wanted to recognize all of the graduates across the Navajo Nation and show them some honor. Thank you, Speaker. That's my announcement.
Right. Thank you. And yes, recognizing all the graduates and their continuous efforts, and may they all continue to move on in their blessed lives. That, colleagues, any other comment or actually recognitions this morning?
Eugene So.
Good morning, Honorable Eugene So.
Should say.
Oh.
I'd like to recognize Hopi, Navajo Hopi honor courts across the Navajo Nation on bikes during the Memorial Day. So, and those that came back, all the veterans. They were just over here at the Memorial Park this morning. Thank you, Che.
Great. Thank you very much for recognizing Hopi Honor Riders for their continuous efforts and advocating for many of the veterans. With that, we'll go on to Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair on recognitions. Honorable Yellowhair, good morning.
Good morning. Telecommu Speaker of Navajo Nation Council and all members of 24 Councilmen. Good morning. Shinat Officini. Arunda, it's not fine way to just Jivavani opinions. The Ero way just Jivavani Hartrat and Whipplewell. Chido, I'd like to congratulate all high school. High school, I'd like to recognize my my first granddaughter. Her name is Lexa. Lexa Petone. She graduated from Camelback High School from Phoenix, and she's on her way to ASU. And then I have another niece. She's my granddaughter too, and she's on her way to state of Washington. Her name is a Miss. Let me see. Forgot about her first name. Miss Tells. She's a young lady on her way to Washington. Congratulate to my granddaughter too over there she graduated from prep school, high school from Farmington. Congratulate everybody. Should have any question. Congratulations and throughout the Navajo Nation. God bless each one of us. And then good morning to President Nez and also Vice President Liza and your staff and the Chief Justice. Jane, God bless all your staff. Thank you very much, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Hair, for that recognition. Colleagues, any other recognitions this morning?
Speaker.
Yes.
Thomas Walker.
Good morning, Vice Chair Walker.
Yes, good morning.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm on the call just to let you know.
All right.
Thank you.
Good morning. There's no more recognitions. We can continue on, colleagues, at this time. The item number 3 on our proposed agenda. It's actually a review and adopting the agenda. So let me go to Mr. Rico to get that read into the record, and then we can go on. Mr. Rico.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker, members of the Naabik'íyáti Committee. Naabik'íyáti Committee of the 24 Navajo Nation Council Special Meeting, Window Rock, Navajo Nation, Thursday, June 3rd, 2021. Proposed agenda. Presiding Chair, Honorable Seth Damon, Speaker, 24 Navajo Nation Council. 1, call meeting to order. Roll call invocation. 2, recognize guests and visiting officials. 2-minute limit per delegate. 3, review and adopt the agenda. 4, review and adopt the journals. 1 journal, April 15th, 2021. 5, receive reports. None. 6, old business. None. 7, new business. New business A, legislation 0076-21. 8, close of meeting. Announcements. Adjournment. Mr. Speaker.
Motion by Otto So. Second by Alona.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Again, thank you. You have on this review and adopt agenda, a motion by Honorable Otto So, second by Honorable Halona. Colleagues, any additions, deletions, comments on legislation, or actually on the agenda? Chairman Nez, good
Speaker
morning.
Damon. Delegate Daniel So.
Put you in the queue, Chairman.
Thank you.
Chairman Nez, floor is yours at this time.
Thank you very much, Speaker Damon.
I'll put you in there.
Honorable members and colleagues. I would like to propose an amendment, Amendment 1, and add legislation 0085-21, as well as 0086-21. 0085 is sponsored by myself. 0086 is sponsored by Honorable Freeland. That's my request, sir, and I reserve my time.
Thank you. On 0085-21, there's a motion to amend to add that legislation on. Colleagues, be mindful. The time is 10:30. We do have about 3 hours and 20 minutes left until the Naabik'íyáti committee must end. So I just want to state that again to let everybody know that. But moving forward, Chairman, accepting the amendment on 0085-21 and 0086-21. 0085-21 is an action related to the Resource and Development Committee and Naabik'íyáti Committee approving and endorsing the recommendations for the San Juan River operations and administration for 2021 through 2022. Legislation 0086-21 is an action related to the Resource and Development Committee and the Naabik'íyáti Committee amending CJA-01-21 to extend the deadlines for the procurement of heavy equipment for 25 chapters. So with that, colleagues, on that, there is a motion by Chairman Nez. Is there a second?
Second, Wanika.
Yellow hair.
Second by Honorable Edison Wanika. That, colleagues, at this time, is there any discussion on amendment number 1? I don't have anybody in the queue at this time.
Speaker, could I ask Chair Nez for inclusion on his amendment?
I'll go to you, Chairman Daniel. So on amendment 1, floor is yours.
Members of the Naabik'íyáti Committee, legislative staff, and legislative council, I'd like to ask a request of my younger brother, Honorable Chair Nez, to include legislation 0078 and 0080 to this special meeting of the Naabik'íyáti Committee agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, Chairman, there's just for the recommendation, legislation 0078-21, there's a request to modify, to add that on, and that's an action related to the Naabik'íyáti Committee and the Navajo Nation Council, overriding the Navajo Nation President's veto of the Navajo Nation Council Resolution CMA-18-21. And the second on 0080-21, an action related to Naabik'íyáti Committee establishing the Navajo Nation position to protect and serve the San Francisco Peaks, a sacred mountain and cultural property for the Navajo people and other indigenous relatives. With that, Chairman Nez, as a motion to on Amendment 1, there's a request to modify to add those two into your motion.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker Damon and Honorable Chair Daniel So. I will concur to it. We only have 4 hours and see how far we can get with these legislations. Thank you.
Okay. That, 85, 86, 78, and 80. Reading the line. Honorable Edison Wanika as a second. Are you good?
Concur.
Right. That, colleagues. Any other comments, questions on amendment number 1? Going twice.
Speaker Damon, this is Delegate Crotty.
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair. Floor is yours on amendment 1.
Speaker, can you, so with the modification, can you just restate what amendment 1 is? Thank you.
Amendment 1 is to add on legislation 85, 86, 78, and 80. Are you specifically wanting to read the resolution titles?
No, Speaker Damon. I did hear the titles. I was going to ask if the amending party can consider if it's appropriate, if any of these items can be consent agenda. Thank you, Speaker.
Okay, thank you.
Speaker, Delegate Daniel So.
Chairman Nez, the recommendation at this time would be in your ball court as a motioning party to see if any of these items would go on as a consent agenda items. Mind you, that legislation 85, if 85 and 86 and 80 are all final authority here at NABI. Legislation 78-80-21 would be going on to Navajo Nation Council.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker Damon. I would like to concur if we could, if it's within the law to consent those three, if they're non-controversial. Sir, thank you.
What three, Chairman?
0085-21, 0086-21, 0080-21, sir.
Okay. Monica, on consent agenda 85, 86, and 80. Concur on a consent agenda. That, Chairman Daniel, so you are in the queue on amendment number 1. Floor is yours.
And if we could, thank you, Speaker Damon, and I will concur in that, and I'll back off the request. Thank you.
Colleagues, the way the amendment stands now then is we do have in the consent agenda items 85, 86, and 80. Those items would be actually under new business item number A. And then after that, we would go to legislation 0076-21 and then on to legislation 0078-21 with the amendment 1 as it stands. Colleagues, are there any other comments or questions at this time for amendment number 1?
Speaker, Delegate So.
Honorable Otto So.
Thank you very much. I guess I think 2 of them has the final authority of NABI of the consent agenda, and one's relating to the San Juan River and basin. Then the other is pertaining to the San Francisco Peaks. And dito ko slihat minigi halit ala ola huna bigon update sila hadan to ilab sin. I would really like to see dito ko slihat minigi to be a separate consent separate item taken off the consent agenda, because it's a unique thing, and bela si do hone da hadis de do shikste da digin do alula ka bedini do which ahni dagi hatmuni ge edi ke kodoshi hat en ship not on lin a pen open sakis open hat edi ko sli hatmuni ge hat ko shian sakis de do zi hodo ni le spendi je to best eda ya show upon this kiss do touch nida the adi not on lin kodoy hadit ala ya hato to hit ko ni ya bendi khata de don ni hot abe be hasi thank you.
Armado, so you're wanting 80-21 off the consent agenda. Is that correct?
That's a 10-4. Thank you.
That, colleagues, 80-21 is taken off the consent agenda. So with that, colleagues, as the amendment stands right now, we'd have a consent agenda. Item number A would be 85-21 and 86-21. We'd immediately go to the vote on those with no debate, or actually the debate would be able, if it goes longer than 5 minutes, then we bust those two legislations out. Moving forward after that, on item number B, we'd go to 76-21, item number C, 78-21, then item number D, which would be 80-21. So with that, colleagues, is there any other comments, questions on amendment number 1?
Speaker Damon, Delegate Daniel So.
Chairman Daniel, so floor is yours. On amendment 1.
Yes, regarding the legislation 0080, this is to establish the Navajo Nation position regarding, there was a field hearing with Representative O'Halloran, and the field hearing was based on the fact that the usage of sleep, one for the making of snow using recycled water, and the endangerment of the sacred plants that lived there. And the intent and purpose of this legislation is to send it and to reinforce all the folks that testified at that hearing that this is one of aspect of a cultural property that should not be desecrated. And that's the intent and purpose of this particular legislation. And it's based on the Navajo Nation Human Rights Commission's prior resolutions from years back. That's the reason I asked that the legislation be drafted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That explanation, Chairman Daniel, so are you asking for that to be reconsidered or put back on the consent agenda? Chairman?
Speaker, this is Delegate Otto.
I think we might have lost Chairman Daniel, so. Yes, Honorable Otto, so let me turn the floor over to you. I don't have anybody in the queue at this time. On Amendment 1, Honorable Otto, so.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and honor Honorable Daniel So's request. Like I said, now. So if it's just a reinforcement of Navajo Nation's position that previously has been put in place, I do concur with that. But if that was brought up and in the request of the consent, that would have answered my question. I wouldn't have raised that point. So therefore, I'm going to allow it to move forward to the consent agenda. Thank you.
Chairman Nez, there's a recommendation to put 0080-21 back on the consent agenda. You concur?
Yes, sir, Speaker Damon. Thank you.
Okay. That, Honorable Nika, a second. Honorable Nika concurs. So with that, colleagues, as the legislation stands right now, our amendment goes, if it's approved this way, we'd go to an automatic vote on legislation 85, 86, and 80 on the consent agenda. And then moving on to 76-21, that's item B, and then 78-21, item C, then that would be the final one. Is that correct? Thank you. That, colleagues, any other comments, questions on Amendment 1? I don't have anybody in the queue at this time.
Speaker, this is Delegate Charles Newton.
Honorable Freeland, and then Madam Chair Charles Newton. Honorable Freeland.
Thank you, Speaker. Other colleagues, Naflenigi, Yananate. Speaker, in relation to 0086, it looks like we need to have an amendment done to it. It does say 25 chapters, but it's really affecting 51 chapters. So that legislation needs to be corrected because there is, it does state 25. I don't know if that would affect the legislation as well, if we left it that way. If there's a way I can have Dana interpret that, because it's really affecting 51 and not 25, like stated. Thank you, Speaker. That's my question.
Thank you. With that, let me go back to a question to Ms. Barbara.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes.
this is Lurleen. This is Lurleen Tapahi with Legislative Council. I can address that question, that issue.
Yes, Ms. Tapahi. Thank you very much from the Office of Legislative Council. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Just briefly, the 25 chapters came about because of the exhibit number 4. The timeline extension request coming out of the Division of Community Development had an exhibit A to the memo from Dr. Yellowman. And in that exhibit A, there's actually, 51 line items for heavy equipment, 51 different pieces of heavy equipment. However, I counted up the different listing of chapters in the line items up to 1 through 51, and it actually came out to 25 chapters. So for example, if you look at the first 3 entries on Exhibit 4, it says Alamo under box 1, there's a flatbed, and then box 2 is also Alamo chapter for a forklift. Box 3 is also Alamo chapter, a pallet jack. So that's the reason for the 25 chapters. It's actually the 51 numbers on Exhibit 4 actually are showing 25 chapters. And that's why the legislation reads 25 chapters. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Tabahi. That, Honorable Freeland.
Speaker, there was a call with the Office of the Controller last week, and after that call, the number did change because of the number of outstanding ORs that are still being processed. That's why, hence, this legislation was put forth. So the number did increase to 51, according to the Office of the Controller. That's why we needed to change it. So if we left it at 25, if we left it at 25, I don't know if those other chapters would be left out. The other 26 would be left out. If it just would apply just to the 25 as stated in the legislation. Thank you, Speaker.
All right, Honorable Freeland.
Yes,
sir. Are you requesting to take legislation 0086-21 off the consent agenda? That's the question right now.
Mr. Speaker.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, that's a question, Honorable Freeland.
Could I ask,
if you have, I mean, that's what we're talking about right now. If you don't feel comfortable on it, then what we can do, because I don't want to have that debate right now.
I'm trying to get legal interpretation if the other 26 chapters would be left out, if we left it as 25, if they would be left.
Mr. Speaker, this is Lurleen, and I can address that more specifically.
Okay, Mr. Tapahi, go ahead.
Thank you. So the question being, if an amendment is necessary to this legislation, then it cannot be put on the consent agenda. It appears if there are more recent numbers coming out of DCD or the Controller's Office, if that Exhibit 4 needs to be replaced with a new amendment, with a new exhibit, or if an additional exhibit needs to be added and that changes the 25 chapter number, then yes, we would need an exhibit, an amendment to this legislation, and it would not go on the consent agenda. Thank you.
With that, to that question, Honorable Freeland, as a sponsor of legislation 0086-21, is there going to be an amendment to Exhibit 4? Because I see what both sides are saying. There's actually 24, 25, there's 25 chapters on that exhibit, but you're saying there's 51 pieces of equipment. So is Exhibit 4 going to be changed out?
Yes, I will talk to Division of Community Development because we did get this information from Office of the Concurrent Speaker. So,
So
yes,
you're gonna take, so you'd like to
Yeah.
take 86-21 off the consent agenda?
yes, Speaker.
Okay.
Thank you.
That, colleagues, let me go back to the floor. Madam Chair Charles Newman, good morning still.
Good morning, Speaker. I have some questions on 8521, so I'd like to ask that it be removed from the consent agenda. Thank you.
Okay, with that, 85-21 is removed, 86-21 is removed. So at this time, there is no consent agenda. Moving back to the floor, the lineup then is going back to Honorable Chairman Nez's original position, 85-21, then 86-21, then 78, then 80, and then 76. So with that, any other final comments, questions, or back to the agenda? I don't have anybody else in the queue. Went twice. Went 3 times. Mr. Rico, second reading.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the 24th Navajo Nation Council, Naabik'íyáti Committee. Amendment number 1 is to add legislation 0085-21, 0086-21, 0078-21, 0080-21 to the agenda. And those would follow 0076-21 that's already on the agenda, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. With that, go to the board, colleagues, on Amendment 1.
Honorable Alma Begay. Honorable Alma Begay. Honorable Alma Begay did not vote. Honorable Kealan Begay Jr.
I vote
Kealan
green.
votes green.
Honorable Kealan Begay Jr.
Kealan Begay Jr. votes green. Thank you.
Honorable Kealan Begay Jr. votes green. Honorable Alma Begay votes green. Honorable Paul Begay Jr. Honorable Paul Begay Jr. Honorable Paul Begay Jr. did not vote. Honorable Nathaniel Brown.
Delegate Brown votes green.
Honorable Nathaniel Brown votes green. Honorable Regina Charles Newton.
Charles Newton votes green.
Honorable Regina Charles Newton votes green. Honorable Amber Kamisbah Carter.
100%.
Delegate Amber Kamisbah-Crotty votes green. Thank you.
Honorable Amber Kamisbah-Crotty votes green.
Oh, good.
Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr.
Vote green.
Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr. votes green. Honorable Mark Freeland.
I vote green. Thank you.
Honorable Mark Freeland votes green. Honorable Panal Halona. Honorable Panal Halona. Honorable Panal Halona did not vote. Honorable Jamie Henry. Honorable Jamie Henry votes green. Honorable Vince James. Honorable Vince James. Honorable Vince James did not vote. Honorable Ricky Nair.
Delegate Rick Nez votes green.
Honorable Ricky Nair votes green. Honorable Carl Slater.
Green.
Honorable Carl Slater votes green. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr.
Green.
Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. votes green. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr.
Green.
Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. votes green. Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So.
I vote green.
Honorable Charlene So votes green. Honorable Daniel So. Honorable Daniel So. Honorable Daniel So did not vote. Honorable Eugene So.
Vote is, oh, go ahead, thank you.
Honorable Eugene So votes green. Honorable Otto So.
I vote green.
Honorable Otto So votes green. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr.
I vote green.
Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. votes green. Honorable Edison Winika. Honorable Edison Winika votes green. Honorable Edwin Yazzie. Honorable Edwin Yazzie. Honorable Edwin Yazzie did not vote. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair.
I vote green, thank you.
Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair votes green. Going back up, Honorable Paul Begay Jr.
Delegate Paul Begay votes green.
Honorable Paul Begay Jr. votes green. Honorable Pinal Halona.
Lorna votes green.
Honorable Pinal Halona votes green. Honorable Vince James. Honorable Vince James Geotex votes green. Honorable Daniel So.
I vote green.
Honorable Daniel So votes green. Honorable Evan Yazzie. Honorable Evan Yazzie. Honorable Evan Yazzie did not vote. With that, Mr. Speaker, you have a vote of 22 in favor and 0 opposed, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, 22 in favor, 0 opposed on Amendment 1. Motion carries. That, let me go back to the floor. On the main motion on our agenda, we do have Chairman Daniel So on the main motion.
I will defer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. With that, moving on down, Chair, Honorable Freeland, floor is yours.
Speaker, I will defer as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, let me go on. Any other further comments, questions on the main motion of our agenda? We have no one else in the queue. One twice. One 3 times. Mr. Rico, second reading.
Mr. Speaker, members of the Naabik'íyáti Committee, you have one amendment. Amendment 1 is to add legislation 0085-21, 0086-21, 0078-21, 0080-21 to the agenda, Mr. Speaker.
Can you repeat that? This is Delegate Yellowhair.
Go ahead, Mr. Rico.
Amendment number 1 is to add legislation 0085-21, 0086-21, 0078-21, 0080-21 to the agenda, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, thank you. That, colleagues, go to the board on the main motion with one amendment.
Honorable Elmer Begay. Honorable Elmer Begay. Honorable Elmer Begay did not vote.
I vote green.
Honorable Elmer Begay votes green. Honorable Keon Begay Jr.
Yellow votes green.
Honorable Keon Begay Jr. votes green. Honorable Paul Begay Jr.
Delegate Paul Begay votes green.
Honorable Paul Begay Jr. votes green. Honorable Nathaniel Brown. Honorable Nathaniel
Delegate
Brown.
Brown votes green.
Honorable Nathaniel Brown votes green. Honorable Gina Charles Newton.
Charles Newton votes green.
Honorable Gina Charles Newton votes green. Honorable Amber Knesset-Carty. Honorable Amber Knesset-Carty. Honorable Amber Knesset-Carty does not vote. Honorable Herman and Daniel Sr.
Green, thank you. Thank you,
I vote in favor.
Honorable Herman and Daniel Jr. votes green. Honorable Amber Knesset-Carty votes green. Honorable Mark Freeland.
Green, thank you.
Honorable Mark Freeland votes green. Honorable Tanao Halona.
Halona votes green.
Honorable Tanao Halona votes green. Honorable Jamie Henry.
He votes green.
Honorable Jamie Henry votes green. Honorable Vince James. Honorable Vince James. Honorable Vince James did not vote. Honorable Ricky Nez.
Delegate Rick Nez votes green.
Honorable Ricky Nez votes green. Honorable Carl Slater.
Green.
Honorable Carl Slater votes green. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. did not vote. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr.
Green.
Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. votes green. Honorable Charlene So.
I vote green.
Honorable Charlene So votes green. Honorable Daniel So.
I vote green.
Honorable Daniel So votes green. Honorable Eugene So.
What is your share?
Honorable Eugene So votes green. Honorable Otto So.
I vote green.
Honorable Otto So votes green. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr.
I vote green.
Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. votes green. Honorable Edison Wanika. Honorable Edison Wanika votes green. Honorable Edwin Yazzie. Honorable Edwin Yazzie. Honorable Edwin Yazzie did not vote. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair.
I vote green. Thank you.
Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair votes green. Honorable Vince James. Honorable Vince James. Honorable Vince James did not vote. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. Honorable
Green.
Raymond Smith Jr. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. votes green. With that, Honorable Edwin Yazzie. Honorable Edwin Yazzie. Honorable Edwin Yazzie did not vote. With that, Mr. Speaker, you have a vote of 21 in favor and 0 opposed. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Pat, 21 in favor, 0 opposed. Chair not voting. Motion carries. We do have an agenda before us, colleagues. So let's go ahead and continue on down. Item number 4, review and adopt the journals. We do have journals attached that were sent out to colleagues. What was that? Yesterday, and it was also sent out on May 17th too as well. And that was for Naabik'íyáti Committee on April 15th, 2021. What is the will of the committee?
Motion, Daniel.
Motion to accept that by Honorable Daniels, second by Honorable.
Second.
Colleagues, any comments, questions?
Second by
Speaker, this is Delegate Charles Newton.
Yellowhair.
On second by Honorable Yellowhair. Yes. Madam Chair, Charles Newton.
Speaker, for that journal, if we could make a correction. Speaker, that day I did contact you to ask to be excused. On the journal, it states that I was absent. If we could make that change.
Yeah. Madam Chair, Charles Newton, Mr. Rico is changing that as we speak. Okay.
Thank you, Speaker.
Any other comments, questions? If there's none, let's go to board. Voting on accepting the report or the journal.
Honorable Alma Begay. Honorable Alma Begay. Honorable Alma Begay did not vote. Honorable Alma Begay Jr.
Delegate Kiala votes green. Thank you.
Honorable Alma Begay Jr. votes green. Honorable Paul Begay Jr.
Paul Begay votes green.
Honorable Paul Begay Jr. votes green. Honorable Nathaniel Brown.
Delegate Brown votes green.
Honorable Nathaniel Brown votes green. Honorable Regina Charles Newton.
Charles Newton votes green.
Honorable Regina Charles Newton votes green. Honorable Amber Kenneth-Carty.
Delegate Amber Kenneth-Carty votes green.
Honorable Amber Kenneth-Carty votes green. Honorable Herman Daniels Jr.
I vote green.
Honorable Herman Daniels Jr. votes green. Honorable Mark Freeland.
I vote green. Thank you.
Honorable Mark Freeland votes green. Honorable Pinal Halona. Honorable Pinal Halona. Honorable Pinal Halona did not vote. Honorable Jamie Henyo. Honorable Jamie Henyo. Honorable Jamie Henyo did not vote. Honorable Vince James. Honorable Vince James. Honorable Vince
Delegate James
did
votes
not
green.
vote. Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Ricky Ness.
Delegate Rick Nez votes green.
Honorable Ricky Ness votes green. Honorable Carl Slater.
Green.
Honorable Carl Slater votes green. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. did not vote. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr.
Green.
Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. votes green. Honorable Charlene Self.
Green.
Honorable Charlene Self votes green. Honorable Daniel Self.
I vote green.
Honorable Daniel Self votes green. Honorable Eugene Self.
Green.
Honorable
Sure.
Eugene Self votes green. Honorable Otto Self.
I vote
Honorable
green.
Otto Self. Honorable Otto Self votes green. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr.
I vote green.
Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. votes green. Honorable Edison Monica. Honorable Edison Monica votes green. Honorable Edwin Yazzie. Honorable Edwin Yazzie. Honorable Edwin Yazzie did not vote. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair.
I vote green.
Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair votes green. Going back up, Honorable Alma Brigade.
I vote green.
Honorable Alma Brigade votes green. Honorable Pinal Halona.
Halona votes green.
Honorable Pinal Halona votes green. Honorable Jamie Henry. Honorable Jamie Henry. Honorable Jamie Henry did not vote. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr.
Green.
Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. votes green. Honorable Edmund Yazzie. Honorable Edmund Yazzie. Honorable Edmund Yazzie did not vote. With that, Mr. Speaker, you have a vote of 21 in favor and 0 opposed. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. With that, moving on down. The vote of 21 in favor, 0 opposed. My pin going here. Chair not voting. Motion carries. Let's go on down to item number 5, receiving reports. There are none at this time. Old business under item number 6. There are none at this time too. Item number 7 is the new agenda. Has it gone out yet? Oh, almost done sending out the new agenda. But under new business, item number 8 is legislation 0076-21. Sponsored by Honorable Paul Begay, co-sponsored by Honorable Brown, co-sponsored by Honorable Daniels, co-sponsored by Honorable Freeland, co-sponsored by Vice Chair Walker. With that, colleagues, on that measure, Mr. Rico, if you could read legislation 0076-21 into the record.
Mr. Speaker and members of the Naabik'íyáti Committee, tracking number 0076-21, an action relating to health, education, and human services, research and development, Naabik'íyáti Committees and Navajo Nation Council, approving the reopening of the Lake Powell Navajo Tribal Park, Monument Valley, Navajo Tribal Park, Monument Valley Welcome Center, Little Colorado River, Navajo Tribal Park, Four Corners Monument, and Sayed Dinet Heritage Area at orange status, notwithstanding public health emergency order number 21-005, and supporting the continued implementation of the Division of Economic Development Business Reopening Plan for businesses operating within the above-mentioned Navajo Nation parks and recreation sites at orange status, notwithstanding public health emergency order number 2021-005, sponsored by Honorable Paul Begay, co-sponsored by Honorable Nathaniel Brown, co-sponsored by Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr., co-sponsored by Honorable Mark A. Freeland, co-sponsored by Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. You do have committee reports. There is a committee report from the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee that recommended do pass with no amendments, no directive. There is a committee report from the Resources and Development Committee that it recommends a do pass with the following amendments. Amendment number one, Exhibit A, Exchange Public Health Emergency Order number 2021-005 for Public Health Emergency Order number 2021-009. 2, in every place in the legislation where the word orange appears, replace with the word yellow. These places include page 1, line 22, page 3, lines 11, 12, 14, page 4, line 15, page 5, line 17, 22, 27, page 6, line 5. 3, in every place in the legislation where the numbers 2021-005 appear, replace with the numbers 2021-009. These places include page 1, lines 18 and 23, page 3, lines 4, 7, and 14, page 4, line 13, page 5, lines 18, 23, page 6, lines 2 and 8. 4, page 3, lines 5 and 6 amend as follows. The Navajo Nation is experiencing a overstrike gradual downward trajectory of new cases with a slowed infection rate and no sustained rebound. End overstrike. Underscore new language, plateau of low cases with a slowed infection rate and no sustained rebound. End underscore. 5, page 3, line 14, delete 2 and insert 3. 6, page 3, line 15, delete 25 and insert 50. 7, page 3, line 17, delete 25 and insert 50. 8, page 3, line 22 through 25, amend as follows. Overstrike Marina and Parks, appointment only. End overstrike. Casinos and video poker. Navajo casinos are allowed to open underscore new language at 50% of maximum occupancy and underscore to Navajo Nation residents underscore new language, comma, citizens, comma, and underscore and employees only, note visitors and tourists. Overstrike, not allowed in orange phase, youth programs, museums, flea markets, roadside markets, gyms, recreation facilities, movie theaters, and overstrike. 9, page 3, lines 26 through 29, delete paragraph G in its entirety. 10, page 3, line 26, insert new paragraph G as follows. New language underscore paragraph G, public health emergency order number 2021-009 at page 2, paragraph D states, restaurants may provide indoor dining at 25% of maximum occupancy. Marinas and parks are allowed to open at 25% of maximum occupancy to Navajo Nation residents, citizens, and employees only. No visitors and tourists. Tour businesses must follow the HCOC reopening guidelines for tour businesses. Museums are allowed to open at 25% of maximum occupancy. End underscore. 11, page 3, line 30, page 4, lines 1 through 4, delete paragraph H in its entirety. Three-letter renaming paragraphs. Remaining paragraphs. 12, page 4, lines 9 through 11, delete. Overstrike, Navajo Nation is experiencing a gradual downward trajectory of new cases and a slowed infection rate and no sustained rebound. End overstrike. And insert new language underscore. The Navajo Nation is experiencing a plateau of low cases with a slowed infection rate and no sustained rebound. End underscore. Amendment number 2, 1, page 1, line 23. Insert the following at the end of line 23. Underscore new language, semicolon, and approving the reopening of Navajo Nation owned and maintained roads notwithstanding public health emergency order 2021-009 and resolution number CMA-16-20 and underscore. On page 2, line 10, at the end of line 10, add the following sentence. Underscore new language. The Resources and Development Committee also has authority over roads and transportation on the Navajo Nation. 2, NNC, section 501B1, B2B, and underscore. 3, page 5, line 12, add new paragraph K as follows. underscore new paragraph, paragraph K. The Navajo Nation recognizes the need, the Navajo Nation Council recognizes the need to reopen Navajo Nation roads and Navajo Nation maintained roads in order to facilitate business operations and to support the recovery of small businesses and vendors at the Navajo Nation parks listed herein and underscore. 4 on page 6, line 10, insert new section 5 as follows. New section 5 underscore, section 5 approving the reopening of Navajo Nation owned and maintained roads notwithstanding public health emergency order 2021-009 and resolution number CMA-16-20. The Navajo Nation Council hereby approves the reopening of Navajo Nation owned and maintained roads notwithstanding public health emergency order 2021-009 and resolution number CMA-16-20. This reopening shall apply to all travelers within the Navajo Nation, residents, tourists, and visitors alike. The Navajo Nation Council supports and approves this reopening in order to facilitate business operations and the recovery of small businesses and vendors at the Navajo Nation parks listed herein. And underscore. 5, renumber, re-letter succeeding paragraph sections and exhibits accordingly. If necessary, this amendment shall supersede inconsistent language contained in any other committee amendment, which shall be conformed to the intent or language of this amendment. The Office of Legislative Services, with notice to the sponsor of the legislation, is hereby authorized to make necessary grammatical changes. This legislation is bound for Navajo Nation Council for final authority. Mr. Speaker.
Okay, thank you. With that, colleagues, on the motion of legislation 0076-21, I'll go ahead and ask for a motion at this time, actually.
Daniel, motions.
Motion by
Yellow
Honorable,
hair second.
second by Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair. That, colleagues, I know that there was recommendations too as well for amendment to legislation 0076 that's provided by Office of Legislative Council. So let me turn the floor over to Honorable Paul Begay this time. Honorable Paul Begay, floor is yours. You have 20 minutes on the board.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker Seth Damon, and good morning, and also thank you to my colleagues on the 24th Navajo Nation Council. This morning, I bring to you legislation 0076-21. I also have with me to present today will be Ms. Michelle Monroe, representing approximately 10 tour companies within the Naabik'íyáti Antelope Point areas. Ms. Monroe works for Ken's Tours in Lower Antelope Canyon. Also helping me today will be Linda Jackson, representing tour companies around Sebin's Kahimanamet Valley from Navajo Guided Tours. Ko Eshishikai in Chetole. Ko Shehedo, Ko Eshiya, Isago Iya, Nikichodish, Ado. I will turn the time over to Ms. Monroe and Ms. Jackson to give their report and on how the reopening plans are done. Ishi Hajo Nikitishan Ilethole, Ko Nahadahodil, in here in Western Agency. I will use Antelope Slot Canyon Tours as the basis for my presentation this morning. We often hear the word Ahuachitego. These people, the business people in the Slot Canyon areas, tour companies, they establish from ground up using their own funds to build their businesses. And in return, we often hear another statement, that's what they do. We are almost halfway into the tour season already in the month of June. Of course, they're still kind of, their hands are still kind of tied, not doing any business. Almost 1,000 students come to work at these tour companies. When it's time for them to go back to school. It provides a lot of employment for our students, high school students, college students, all over the nation, and all over the Navajo reservation. Every business is booming. This past weekend, here in Page area, I drove to Wawip area. I drove to Antelope Point area, boat ramps. They're telling us that I believe they said 140 feet below full pool is where it's at right now, Lake Powell. But people don't look at that way. The parking lots were full of boats. The entrance to these marinas, cars and boats are parked alongside the road. They don't care how low the water is. Of course, business is booming around our area, but yet we still have our Navajo business people. Their hands are still tied. That's what we want our people to do. We want them to be self-sufficient, self-efficient, and self-sustaining. This is what they do, and they provide many jobs for our young people. Not only that, scholarships. I know a couple of businesses that do that, provide scholarship, even funding holiday tournaments. You know, they don't do it for themselves. They help the community. Of course, this is our time to show them that we care about what they do and we want to support them in their business. Their reopening plans, I have looked at them, and they are very, very well put together. And they have the safety guidelines, OSHA guidelines, NOSHA guidelines, Department of Health guidelines, everything in mind. And I would like to quickly, after we pass this today, to quickly go to the Navajo Nation Council, pass that evening so that our people can begin their business again. These business people, we held them back this long. It's time now. I see we're on the verge of going green right now. And I think it is safely, we can safely say that they will provide the best safety guidelines, the best reopening plans for visitors as well as their employees alike. Right now, I would like to turn the time over to my agent, Ms. Michelle Monroe, to give a report on how they will do their reopening plans. Ms. Monroe.
Ken's Tours Lower Antelope Canyon e Banashnish. Shamado Shaje e Ken's Torzios was Kenneth do Emily Young Hulya. Ado ne Nishlini e bits ahni nishne. Sitna Jenny Bashichin, Tachini Dashiche, Tobahanasht Aje Dashanale. Ken's Tours and Dixie LACT at Lower Antelope Canyon worked closely together on a robust reoccupancy plan. We turned our plans in April 2020 to Navajo Parks and Rec. We updated them in September 2020 with CD guidelines, Navajo OSHA, and Navajo Department of Health protocols, along with the phased reopening stipulated by Navajo Health Command Operations Center, starting at 25% capacity and increasing in phases. In December of 2020, we submitted our applications to receive our 2021 tour operator permits. In March of this year, our plans were approved by the Navajo Nation Division of Economic Development. Our plans were developed over a year ago. They were reviewed, updated with the changing guidelines, and now they are approved for when we can reopen. The health and safety of our employees and visitors has always been the most important piece of our day-to-day operations, and it doesn't lessen any in regards to COVID precautions. Our plans include many steps covering health and safety guidelines from the beginning to the end of a person's visit. I will highlight some key points. Although they are not currently employed with us, 100% of the list of employees returning have completed their COVID-19 vaccination. I know the other tour operators in our area can attest to the same. Prior to admittance to the premises, employees and visitors alike must wear their face covering. They will initially have their temperature checked and asked to respond to a COVID screening questionnaire. Once allowed to proceed, visitors will check in and wait outside for their tour. The entire hiking tour is outdoors. Transactions will be done electronically, minimizing cash handling. In this initial phase of reopening, we plan to take one guide per household group rather than mixing up groups. This will allow each guide to control distancing from other groups. Once the groups are situated, each tour guide will leave with their group at 3-minute intervals to ensure time space to adequately practice social distancing inside the canyon. Other measures include sanitizing touch surfaces frequently throughout the day, placing hand sanitizing stands at the entrance and the exit of the canyon. Canyon handrails will be sanitized frequently. Tour guides will wash their hands between each tour group. We have built and purchased the supplies and changes needed to coincide with our plans, some of which include easy to read COVID precaution signage, hand washing and sanitizing stations, plexiglass barriers, PPE, and cleaning and sanitation supplies. It has been 1 year, 2 months, and 3 weeks since the Navajo Nation closures were put in place. During this time, a lot of work has been done to fight this disease. We are in a better place now than we were a year ago. We have all learned how to protect ourselves, wearing a mask, social distancing, washing our hands, and getting fully vaccinated. We have better defenses and have learned so much in prevention and in best safe practices. COVID cases continue to stay minimal. In early May, President Nez reported on the town hall that as of May 2nd, 99,254 Navajo area IHS Navajo residents were fully vaccinated. He stated it was a rate of over 71%. He also stated he would like to set a goal of 75% to consider reopening to tourists. As of May 28 on the Navajo Department of Health website, the total number of fully vaccinated is 110,662. which if the end total is the same, we would probably be around 78% fully vaccinated. I haven't heard the official update on this, and it's very hard to find that data. However, I want to also point out that the town of Page, which is right next to Naabik'íyáti and Lake Powell Tribal Parks, the rate of fully vaccinated people is at 68%. According to the Tuba City Regional Health website, Naabik'íyáti is between 70 to 79%. Our local communities are doing a great job with their vaccination rates. We all know the effects of the pandemic have been difficult and challenging for everyone. For many businesses on Navajo, everything came to a standstill. We did not know how long this would last. We did not know that it would last over a year. Ken's Tours and LACT employed over 250 people just at Lower Antelope Canyon. There are 12 other tour companies with Lake Powell Tribal Parks. Our families, employees, and communities have all been impacted. We all lost loved ones. Many lost their jobs, their homes, their vehicles. Many had to leave families to find work in bigger cities. Personal obstacles like depression, domestic violence, suicide, and hunger all ran high and became too common across our communities. Tour operators at Lake Powell Tribal Parks have diligently created guidelines and plan of operations above recommendation to help mitigate and protect our employees in order to provide employment that can start the healing of our people, our economy, and our land. Our people can come home, families can reunite and start to rebuild. Our local economy can recover. And we long to return to our workplace where we can once again become stewards of the land, fully preserving and protecting our parks. In humble respect and on behalf of the Lake Powell Tribal Park tour operators, I request your support of this legislation to reopen to visitors and tourists. And I strongly emphasize that since the shutdown in March 2020, we have always been working on our reopening plans. We are confident in our plans, and we will exhibit extreme dedication in operating our businesses in a safe manner for our employees and visitors. Thank you. Back to you, Paul.
Thank you for that very informative report, Ms. Monroe. I'd like to turn the time over to now to Ms. Jackson with Navajo Guided Tours. Ms. Jackson. Ms. Jackson, you might have to push *6.
Hello? Hello?
Yes. Ms. Jackson, we can hear you.
Okay. Linda Jackson in Schedule 7 the Skegoya Ashcast. So, but an install catchy near Boston. There's a fan that's a null. It's done in a call March 13, 2020 at that partner at Codelia. A call Valley resident in Straw. They just under the part out this state, although they won't let nobody down there. The curfew that how long we couldn't go anywhere. So our income was just cut off with the bad season. So we were unemployed. Our workers were unemployed. A call and the reopening plan that I'll see if you get on. So we did that. We did a reopening plan, sent it out to economic development. The OSHA plan, though. She last out. Oh, yeah, and that now it's close. Guides train that I'll see if you get on. We told the guides that they need to sanitize each vehicle after each use, how they can protect themselves by wearing a face shield or a mask. Though we asked them to get their shots, and all our drivers and guides have their shots. All these other tour companies, all of that. We got approved and we got our permit back. But we're like in the mid-season of tour business. They're like, gone, they want to know where and why and when is this going to be open again. Reservation we can't really do anything because we don't have the answer to give them a quick. So if you look at Sedona, Moab, and all these other national parks, it's open. It's out in the open space. They're not in the crowded area. This could be the same. They get open air vehicles and they're asked to sit no. Although we are supposed to supply PPE, supply like masks, gloves, sanitizer, so handy wipes, all that and how long she don't need. So what business store and got these to Niquaston or Yin Late Seven, the Yaman Valley Park, oh, I get in that the car get yo on the honey jewelry. Those vibrate upon the honey. What are in his house on there, quit on it, but that is cause. A call question to ye should have another have this because they were they were unable to pay on them. So it's been pretty tough. It is the top end that he big in the so they run the store. What in his house? A call. I saw them not on it and not cynical. Nikato, tour business, alle small business, open handa to, please. Ashon bake and Naabik'íyáti lesson. Hashtag and they college or the the bookstore parking space, the Chidibator, the Chiyanda, they can't, they Jahanek, and we have nothing to give them to help them with. So, one of my grandsons goes to college, and he's planning on moving back from Illinois. Adole, yo, Lesto, the Binchaka, no, I couldn't but we can't afford it anymore. So he wants to move closer to home to see if he can continue his education. Oh, that's 80. It really hurts. So if you guys can just open the parks back up for us and let us do our business again. Johor flea market that open in Dahlia. So if you guys could just give us the opportunity to do our business again. Oh, in his husband. So I shown it. But just to ask you guys to help us. I shown it. Yeah.
Ms. Jackson. Again, thank you, Ms. Michelle Monroe and Ms. Jackson for your thorough report. I ask at this time my colleagues of the 24th Navajo Nation Council for an affirmative vote on this issue so we can help our people to get back into business so they can in return help our students also to get employment. As I mentioned, almost 1,000 jobs are at stake. They need to, they're waiting to get back to work. Let's help them. Yeah. This concludes our presentation, Honorable Speaker Seth Damon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Paul Begay, and to you and your presentation on legislation 0076-21. With that, colleagues, I know we have a motion by Honorable Daniel, second by Honorable Yellow Hair. So let's go to the floor at this time. I have at this time Chairman Rick Nez in the queue, also followed by Honorable Otto So, then followed by Madam Chair Amber Crotty, then Honorable Daniel. So with that, Chairman Nez, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker Damon, honorable members of the 24th Council. Speaker Roshananda, I forwarded an amendment language to the legislation, and I hope everyone has received it and read it. So I would like to make that motion, and perhaps Mr. Rico can read that into the record, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Rico.
Speaker Damon.
Delegate Daniel So seconds that motion.
Mr. Rico, can you read it into the record first, and then I'll go back to the floor for a second.
Thank you, Speaker and members of the Naabik'íyáti Committee. Amendment number 1 is 1, Exhibit A, Exchange Public Health Emergency Order number 2021-005 with Public Health Emergency Order number 2021-011. 2, page 1, line 17 and 18, amend as follows. Heritage area at Overstrike Orange, status _ 100%, notwithstanding public health emergency orders related to COVID-19, Overstrike number 2021-005, and supporting the continued implementation of the Division of Economic Development's business reopening plan for businesses operating within the above-mentioned Navajo Nation parks and recreation sites at orange status, notwithstanding public health emergency order number 2021-005, end over strike. 3, delete RDC Amendment number 1 in its entirety. 4, page 3, lines 4 to 6, delete paragraph D in its entirety. Insert new paragraph as follows. New paragraph D underscore D, Public Health Emergency Order number 2021-00 attached as Exhibit A at page 1, paragraph 3 states the Navajo Nation is experiencing a plateau of low cases with a slowed infection rate and no sustained rebound, end underscore. 5, page 3, lines 7 to 29, delete paragraphs E, F, and G in its entirety. 6, page 3 to 4, lines 30, 1 to 4, delete paragraph H in its entirety. 7, page 4, lines 5 to 12, make the following changes. Paragraph I, Navajo Nation residents who derive their income from selling their arts and crafts and services at the Lake Powell Navajo Tribal Park, Monument Valley, Navajo Tribal Park, Monument Valley Welcome Center, Little Colorado River, Navajo Tribal Park, Four Corners Monument, Telecommu Heritage Area have felt the adverse economic effects of the closure of these Navajo Nation parks, given that the Navajo Nation is experiencing a overstrike gradual downward trajectory of new cases with a slowed infection rate and no sustained rebound, and overstrike underscore new language plateau of low cases with a slowed infection rate and no sustained rebound, and underscore these vendors should be allowed to resume their livelihood generated from sales at the Navajo parks. 8, page 4, lines 13 to 16, make the following changes. Paragraph J, underscore new language in accordance with recent public health emergency orders, and underscore overstrike public health emergency order 2021-05 states all underscore new language, insert new word all, and underscore businesses will be required to submit a COVID-19 reopening plan to the Navajo Nation Division of Economic Development before reopening. Overstrike in orange status and overstrike. Reopening plans can be emailed to Navajo Economy at navajo-nsn.gov. 9, page 5, lines 13 to 18, make the following changes. At section 3, overstrike orange status and replace with 100%. After emergency order, insert S to order and insert related to COVID-19 overstrike number 2021-005. 10, page 5, lines 19 to 23, make the following changes. Overstrike orange status and insert 100%. Insert orders plural related to COVID-19 overstrike number 2021-005. Pages 5 through 6, lines 25 to 30, 1 through 8, delete section 4 in its entirety. 11, renumber, reletter succeeding paragraphs, sections, and exhibits accordingly. If necessary, this amendment shall supersede inconsistent language contained in any other committee amendment which shall be conformed to the intent or language of this amendment. The Office of Legislative Services, with notice to the sponsor of the legislation, is hereby authorized to make necessary grammatical changes. Also included with this amendment, 1, page 1, line 23, amend as follows at the end of line 23. Overstrike, insert S at the end of orders, overstrike 2021-009, insert new language underscore related to COVID-19 and underscore. 2, on page 6, line 10, amend section 5 as follows. At section 5, overstrike 2021-009 and insert new language underscore related to COVID-19. The following paragraph, after notwithstanding, insert new language any before public health emergency order, overstrike 2021-005 and insert related to COVID-19. Also attached with this amendment is an Exhibit A which is a public health order, Navajo Nation Department of Health, Navajo Office of Environmental Health and Protection Program, dated May 21st, 2021. It is Public Health Emergency Order number 2021-00011. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Back, colleagues. Go back to the floor. I know before I get a second, I heard Chairman Yazi. Mr. Chairman?
Speaker?
Yes.
Speaker?
Yes.
Sir, just for the record, I'm online, sir.
Okay, all right. Welcome to the club, Chairman.
Yes, sir.
And I think I heard Chairman Daniel
So
as a second. Okay. That Chairman Daniel So is second. On amendment number 1. Colleagues, is there any,
Mr. Speaker, I also have a question.
with that, colleagues, I do have Madam Chair Amber Crotty in the queue and then on them all. Vice Chair Otto. So that, Madam Chair Amber Crotty, floor is yours.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you, Chairman Nez, for your amendment. And I appreciate the attempt to try to clean up the language. In reading the amendment language, so now this legislation will also ask you to take action on the reopening of the roads. And so I need clarification. If then this is to address the Navajo Nation Council resolution. I believe it was sponsored by Delegate, possibly Herman Daniels. If staff can give me an update or provide an update to the council on what's the status of that resolution. I'm not sure if it had an end date or if it was bounded by our public health orders. And so now reading the newest public health order issued May 21st, I just need to know then where we stand with that resolution. The second area, or the second question I have to the sponsor of the amendment is the underlying language is 100%. And in reading the public health order May 21st, it looks like the recommendation is at 50%. But there's for gaming and for other business, or it says in particular, I saw parks is at only allowing Navajo residents or employees. So I wanted to ask if this amendment, when it says 100%, what part of the population are we referring to, just so that I'm clear with the intent of this amendment. And I appreciate the committees for adding all of the amendments. I'm just finding some difficulties trying to, and understanding that new public health orders have developed since this legislation was adopted. But there is a lot of amendments to this legislation, and I did want to ask, and I'm not sure, maybe it's for the main motion or the main sponsor, is what has been the feedback from the Department of Health, and is there a way that they should be addressing this through their public health orders? Thank you very much, Speaker and my colleagues. If I could have those questions answered, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
With that, let me go ahead and go back to Chairman Nez, sponsor of the amendment. Chairman, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker Damon, as well as my colleagues and Shamayeza Karo, Amber Kenneth Crowdy, here Naiden Kirigi Karo, Atinigi roads. Related to the roads on the second amendment that our Mr. Rico read on page 1, line 23. Akwagi Enego. It says, and approving the reopening of Navajo Nation owned and maintained roads notwithstanding public health emergency orders related to COVID-19. If we open it back up as well, it will lead to these parks, and we really need to have our Dene people be involved in having their economy rejuvenated. If we keep the roads closed, we really need them to come back and visit the parks and also the casinos as well. So that language is in there. And on the 100% that we have on the first reading of the amendment, the public health orders has been changing, and all changing for the good. So I believe with this 100% status now, and if we head to the green, we don't have to come back and have another legislation to try and wait on it. So we will have the language already written in there for that purpose. So on the other feedback, Department of Health, I believe that Honorable Begay could respond to that. And if we could also have our Legislative Council, if they could comment on it. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Let me go to Honorable Paul Begay if there's anything else to add, and then I'll go to Office of Legislative Counsel. Honorable Paul Begay.
Thank you, Speaker. And also thank you, my brother, Honorable Delegate Rick Nez, for this amendment, and also Shema, Honorable Delegate Kenneth Crowdy, for your questions. Very important points. Right now, we are at 50%. The way the original legislation was drafted, it reflects the 50% that we are now presently at. So now we've made an amendment to go to the next level, 100%. And the reason behind this is when we're talking about tour companies, this is wide open spaces. I believe when you really think about it, gaming areas and flea markets, which opened this past weekend, there are a lot more people mingling together closely at these places. On the other hand, tour guides, tour companies have open spaces. People are separated from each other, walking through the slot canyons or any other tour areas. So it won't make any sense to just leave them at 50%, because the atmosphere there, the places where these tour areas are totally different from a gaming area or a flea market. This is a very wide open spaces. The other thing that was mentioned is to only allow local people, our native people, to come to these areas. Our native people have already seen these areas. Besides, the slot canyon companies here allow our native people to go in free. They can't make any money by doing that. So if we're allowing only local people and Navajo people to come to these parks, they're not going to come. They've seen it already, and they can go over there free of charge. There's no way to make any money or to sustain these business areas. I just wanted to add those onto it. Speaker.
Thank you. Well, let me go back to the sponsor then. Actually, no. Hold on. Let me go back to there was a question of reference back to Office Legislative Counsel. Ms. Barbara or any of the team members there, I'd like to respond.
Mr. Speaker, this is Mariana Khan. Do you hear me?
Yes, Ms. Khan, I can hear you.
Thank you. In response to language with regard to the opening of the parks and the roadways, the legislation is written with the wording notwithstanding public health orders and notwithstanding the resolution number, let's see, notwithstanding resolution number CMA-16-20. And the word notwithstanding is there to recognize that those two, that the health orders are there and CMA-16-20 is there. However, this resolution is written with the understanding that those two will not prevent this resolution from having effect. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, let me go back to the floor then, if there's no more further response. Honorable Otto, I have you in the queue. The floor is yours. On amendment number 1. Honorable Otto. Honorable Otto going twice. Honorable Otto going 3 times. That, colleagues, moving on down. Any other further comments on amendment number 1?
Speaker Freeland.
Yes. Let me go to Honorable Freeland, and then I'll put Chairman Henio in the queue. Honorable Freeland, floor is yours.
Speaker, thank you. Chairman, and Honorable Paul Begay, thank you for the legislation. I do have an amendment as well. I don't know if I could include it with this amendment, Speaker, but mine's just to include a few parks as well. The Navajo Nation Museum, the Navajo Nation Veterans Memorial Park, and the Navajo Nation Zoo. I did send that to the Office of Legislative Controller, Council, and as well as the Legislative Services Office. Speaker, I don't know if that can be done. Question though, thank you.
Did you just send that information over just now, Honorable Freeland?
It's been about 20, 25 minutes now. Thank you.
Office Legislative Council, I don't know if there was a recommended.
Thank you, Speaker.
Okay.
The Delegate Freeland's amendment is being worked on right now. We're also getting we've gotten a number of amendment requests. So I think the next one that will come out is probably a request from Delegate Smith, and then I think Delegate Freeland will come out next. So it will be a few minutes if you. So that's what I got.
Okay, well, I'll come back to you, Honorable Freeland, when those amendments are ready.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That moving on down, Chairman Henio. Good afternoon. Floor is yours.
Kaya natin sila Speaker Davis and others and report Navajo Nation Council. Just a clarification with this amendment number 1, I missed the response because I don't speak on you. Is that when the question was asked about the reopening of the roads and visitors to the Navajo Nation. To AD, my concern is with it affects the Western Agency also, which is Twin Arrows Casino. And the reason why they're not open is because of the fact that the visitors, non-Navajos, are still not allowed on the nation. They're still being told to stay away, and that's why it affects the operations. So with this amendment, how will that enhance or help Twin Arrows for the reopening of the casino there, which is also a big revenue generator for the chapters on the Western Agency? So ideya, I just could Speaker David.
Thank you. Let me go to Ms. Marianne Khan to respond to that question.
Mr. Speaker, this is Mariana Khan.
Yes.
I hope you. Okay, thank you. The question being how the reopening of the roads will affect the casinos. I do not know the answer to that question for sure. I do know that this legislation does not concern the casinos. It does concern the reopening of the roads. And the casinos were following the public health order, the various public health orders. I do not know how the Health Commission and the individuals in charge of generating those health orders will respond to the opening of the roads. However, this legislation does not concern the reopening of casinos, and therefore I do not have a specific answer for that with regard to this legislation, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker Davis, again.
Yes. Let me go back to the floor. Chairman Henio, there's nobody else in the queue, so floor is yours.
Yeah, just follow up. I was not asking about the reopening of the casino. I was asking on this amendment number 1, if it pertains to reopening of the roads and visitors to the Navajo Nation. That's my question. And I'm sorry I might have missed the response previously, but my concern is that if it does pave the way for reopening of the Navajo Nation to allow visitors to come back on the nation, I think this will be a plus for the Twin Arrow Casino, as they will be able to allow non-Navajos to on their property. And that was my question: is how much of a impact will this amendment number 1 have on something like that? Thank you.
In reading the amendment, Chairman, if you look on, amendment to 76-21, it specifically states that Section 5, approving the reopening of Navajo Nation owned and maintained roads notwithstanding any public health emergency orders related to COVID-19 and Resolution CMA-16-20. With that, it specifically goes into more detail, stating that this reopening shall apply to all travelers within the Navajo Nation, residents, tourists, and visitors alike. So yes, this will allow to help assist in having taken away on that legislation that was passed last year, CMA-16-20, Chairman. I don't know if there's any more further clarification, but it would definitely help that situation, Chairman Henia.
Yeah, no, Speaker Davis, I'm ready to vote green.
All right. That, colleagues, is there any other comments, questions at this time on amendment number 1? Going twice. Going 3 times. We're board on amendment number 1.
Honorable Alma Begay.
I'll vote green.
Honorable Alma Begay votes green. Honorable Kealan Begay Jr.
Kealan votes green. Thank you.
Honorable Kealan Begay Jr. votes green. Honorable Paul Begay Jr.
Delegate Paul Begay votes green.
Honorable Paul Begay Jr. votes green. Honorable Nathaniel Brown.
Delegate Brown votes green.
Honorable Nathaniel Brown votes green. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton.
Charles Newton votes green.
Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton votes green. Honorable Amber Knesset Cardi. Honorable Amber Knesset Cardi. Honorable Amber Knesset Cardi did not vote. Honorable Herman M. Daniels. Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr. Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr. did not vote. Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr. votes green. Honorable Mark Freeland.
Freeland votes green.
Honorable Mark Freeland votes green. Honorable Panal Halona.
Halona votes green.
Honorable Panal Halona votes green. Honorable Jeremy Haniel.
Hania votes green.
Honorable Jeremy Haniel votes green. Honorable Vince James.
Delegate James votes green.
Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Vicky Nez.
Delegate Rick Nez votes green.
Honorable Vicky Nez votes green. Honorable Carl Slater. Honorable Carl Slater. Honorable Carl Slater does not vote. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr.
Green.
Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. votes green. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr.
Green.
Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. votes green. Honorable Charlene So.
Green.
Honorable Charlene So votes green. Honorable Daniel So.
I vote green.
Honorable Daniel So votes green. Honorable Eugene So. Honorable Eugene So. Honorable Eugene So.
What is okay?
Honorable Otto So. Honorable Otto So.
I vote green.
Honorable Otto So votes green. Honorable Eugene So votes green. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr.
I vote green.
Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. votes green. Honorable Edison Winika. Honorable Edison Winika votes green. Honorable Evan Yazzie.
Green.
Honorable Edmund Yazzie. Honorable Edmund Yazzie votes green. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhead.
I vote green. Thank you.
Jimmy Yellowhead votes green. Going back up. Honorable Amber Knesset Cardi. Honorable Amber Knesset Cardi. Honorable Amber Knesset Cardi did not vote. Honorable Carl Slater. Honorable Carl Slater. The call Slater does not vote. With that, Mr. Speaker, you have a vote of 21 in favor and 0 opposed. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, colleagues. With that, 21 in favor. Zero opposed. Chair not voting, motion carries. On amendment number 1. That, colleagues, moving on down on legislation 0076-21. Was that,
He didn't vote.
he did text in. With that, for the record, Honorable Slater did vote green via text message. So that changes the vote from 21 to 22 in favor, 0 opposed, and chair not voting. That, moving on down. On the main motion, Honorable Otto So on the main motion of legislation 0076-21.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Do you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry. In a bad area for cell service, making my way into Windy Rock. But first of all, Speaker, one thing that I would like to see is that, this is to the sponsor, and I wish I had this question when Honorable Chairman Nez has made his amendment, and I'm getting to communication. Any communication from the Navajo Nation Council to the executive branch, has it occurred? Whether it's with Division of Community Development or Division of Economic Development and Parks, Navajo Nation Parks and Recreation, and as far as to all the King's men, the Chief of Staff of the President and the President himself and the Vice President. Has there been any collaboration or effort pertaining to this resolution? You know, we can pass this resolution unanimously on the basis of reopening and trying to help our business world, our business sector. But how does the executive branch currently feel relating to this legislation? Is it a legislation that is not being supported by the executive branch at this time? That's one. And then any collaboration efforts with the direct divisions that are involved. What is those division directors' response and their position? The other is, this is probably another, probably a question to Dana and Department of Justice, is that the President of the Navajo Nation has issued an executive order. And as an executive order is put out, and as the health issue, from emergency management, when they issue a declaration of an emergency, how much water does that hold pertaining to leadership? And additionally, I think the Navajo Nation Council may have gave that final authority to the emergency management or the emergency management commission to put those orders in place. And with that, does the Navajo Nation Council have the authority to rescind those orders? The other is that on the President's executive orders, how much pull and weight does the council have to override or push them aside? The reason why I say this is that we can pass this legislation unanimously, but if we cannot rescind or do anything about the executive orders that are in place, those executive orders will continue to govern, and these division directors are working under the direction of the Navajo Nation president. Sorting through the spaghetti here, sorting out the noodles. The ohni kodopesh mahas an khafad lahaki khane la la ya ohni hiki ya I see gon mission hidet ado anda sa'alid anazne minte. If the executive branch continues to hold their grounds to indicate that we're going to keep it at this rate, I think this legislation ain't going to go anywhere, and another executive order may be issued to govern that.
Thank you very much, Honorable Otto. So that, let me continue on down on the main motion. Madam Chair, Amber Crotty, and then I'll go back to the sponsor, Honorable Paul Gay. Madam Chair, Amber Crotty, on the main motion, floor is yours. Madam Chair, Amber Crotty. Went twice. Madam Chair, Amber Crotty going 3 times. That, let me move on down to
Speaker, Vice Chair Smith.
Daniels. Honorable Daniels.
Yes, good morning. No, good afternoon.
Oh.
Mr. Chair. That's Kent. I don't know the Naabik'íyáti committee members of Sheniki Kodo the basement Anna Kodo the Jinan is at the Chimpodo, I don't know Kodo, a pendat for the Hades, the Sokia Kodo. I don't Kodo the not so bad than how I could not get that. So the Kodo, I see Baba here, Kodo. I don't know Kodo and yet had any get away perhaps any year. So it any year ago. I don't know Kodo. Here, could that delegate Paul Bigay, could my brother could that legislation could get that means so I don't know could your agents could that Miss Monroe and Miss Jackson from Monument Valley and also Chachi area. They did their presentation. I see could them Hajoba wins the Dona Hajoba and Ecuador. I see could and that was nice. So you could have been this legislation could so my position on this legislation is that I fully support this legislation could so I see could bana oshkashidos has been could laid on at the local level at these tribal parks on the Navajo Nation to reopen the tribal parks for our Navajo people, for the tourists, and also for our Navajo businesses that are doing businesses at the local level. Not just them, but for the workers as well, the guides, the drivers that so one zago so I don't know. It's been over a year since the tribal parks has been closed. So as indicated by Delegate Paul McGay, it's been over a year, and we're halfway into the tourist season. About another 2 months. Tourist is a rate that's on that Craigie. It is not Mexico. But I think we really need to help our Navajo businesses. The Chamber of Commerce. I think so it I think about now. I don't know Zaho. Those Zaho that those Zaho the and renegade how NATO I don't know as we all know that Navajo Nation dollars. I think even though we're getting this dollars from the federal government, the ARPA funds. So I don't know with the CARES Act funds. Not all of them. They got assisted with it, with the economic development. That $60 million that we allocated for economic development. Not every one of the business owners applied. So I don't know. Even some applied, but they didn't get a response from economic development. I didn't get even a letter, a denial letter or approval letter. So basically, so that not just the business owners, also the vendors alongside the roadside vendors. Potters out in the rug weavers, silversmiths. We say that Navajo Nation is closed to visitors, but as if you're in Kayenta, yesterday I was in Kayenta, there's a lot of tourists. Manama Valley, along the roadside, they pull off, they camp there. Some they sleep overnight. They actually camp. I don't know. They take pictures. I see I don't know the cargo. So we say Navajo Nation is closed. Roads are closed, but they're actually open. We have tours on the Navajo Nation. So but we really need to reopen these tribal parks, and we have some businesses like the hotel in Manama Valley that are really struggling. But Naabik'íyáti committee members I see baby. Mr. Chair, I'm so behalf. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Daniels. That will go on to Vice Chair Smith, and then I'll come back to Honorable Paul Begay. Vice Chair Smith.
Good afternoon, Naabik'íyáti committee members and those that are listening in today. Thank you, Chair Damon, for the time. Legislation. I'm in agreement with this legislation that we need to start opening up by looking at the recent May 21st, 2021. We moved from orange to yellow. A lot of people are starting to move around and starting to open their business now. The other thing that I was thinking about, is flea market on Linigi. So they want to reestablish and open up at arts and crafts.a.
Ito, Yali, of course, and I'm in favor of this legislation. But at this point in time, I'd like to make an amendment, Shananda. Amendment was sent out by Mariam Khan. Amendment 2. Regarding the lakes and parks on the Navajo Nation. So they want to go fishing. They want to go out there in the recreational parks. I'll call amendment and make that motion to put that so. And not only just the Western Agency, but the lakes on the Navajo Nation, the Parks and Recs area, and Fish and Wildlife. Parks and Recs a site lake although the Fish and Wildlife Wheatfields that the Sali the Neho you Hanatre. So that would be a amendment I'd like to make, Shananda. So if that can be read into the record, thank you.
That, I don't have the amendment. Mr. Rico, do you have the amendment? Was it sent out? Or was it sent out, Ms. Tapahi, at what time? At 12:30. 12:16. Okay.
Yes, it
All
was
right.
sent out.
All right, well, Mr. Rico, if you could read into the record.
Mr. Speaker and members of the 24th Nomination Council, Naabik'íyáti Committee, Amendment Number 2. 1, page 1, at line 13, insert the following underlined language. After reopening of, insert all Navajo Nation lakes and parks, including. 2, page 2, at line 9, insert the following underlined language in paragraph B. After Recreation Department, insert and the Department of Fish and Wildlife. 3, page 5, at line 13, add the following underlying language at section 3. After reopening of, insert all Navajo Nation lakes and parks, including. 4, page 5, at line 19 and line 23, add the following underlying language. After reopening of, insert all Navajo Nation lakes and parks, including. At the end of the paragraph, after 2021-005, insert new language. All Navajo Nation lakes shall be reopened by the Department of Fish and Wildlife as soon as adequate staff and funding become available. 5, renumber re-letter succeeding paragraphs, sections, and exhibits accordingly. If necessary, this amendment shall supersede inconsistent language contained in any other committee amendment which shall be conformed to the intent or language of this amendment. The Office of Legislative Services, with notice to the sponsor of the legislation, is hereby authorized to make necessary grammatical changes. Mr. Speaker.
Okay, with that, thank you, colleagues, on that. Amendment number 2. On legislation 0076-21. Motion by Vice Chair Smith. Is there a second? Second going twice.
Delegate Daniel So, I'll help my little brother with a second.
Chairman Daniel So is the second. Hey, colleagues, any comments, questions on amendment number 2?
Chairman Kelly.
Okay, Honorable Keon Begay, floor is yours on amendment number 2.
Could I don't know, in the midst of the debate, on or amendment on the legislation. The latest information that we got from the Department of Health, Public Health Order, May 21st, 2021, the Public Health Order 2021-011. The yellow status for businesses, Baka Dida. The last that I've heard from the Public Health Commission, then a lot of their decision making deals with the policy that the council implements. If you read the press release late last week or Tuesday, yesterday, 0 new case, 0 recent deaths relating to COVID-19, but it indicates that there may be a delay of a reporting due to the holiday. Within the we, in a way, we tell them to stay home. But yet, just so that we have businesses activity at these tourist attractions, we're allowing people to come back onto the Navajo Nation. Like if it's okay for non-Navajo, and we don't know where they've been, and we're allowing them to come on to the Navajo Nation, but yet we're kind of like suppressing our own Navajo people to even have a food stand or a flea market activity on the Navajo Nation. What would be the input or recommendation from the Department of Health in relations to opening everything back up? And I know the schools has been advocating to start opening the in-class in the upcoming school year. I don't think his staff at Dada, when I was on Winter Rock, I was told that certain staff are still working from home and we're still at 75% capacity. No, yes, it's all that. We're implementing a lot of these on our Navajo people. We're just like opening everything up to non-Navajo. And even going back to the chapter has although some of them are conducting their activities from through the windows or some form of area. These programs because like right now, based on Division of Community Development is asking for chapter projects. In order for the chapter to be prepared to finalize these projects, they need to reach out to some of the communities, especially if they're wanting power line or water line. They have to submit all these applications. But a lot of these ISOH, NTUA, and so on may be closed. Again, my point is that if we're still not having a full opening on the Navajo Nation to conduct direct service to our Navajo people, but yet a person just want to have a leisure, spend time, of course, spend some money on the Navajo Nation, it's okay. There are but yet they need essential service. CDC di no aje be yi jiz o a kwaki ayon to jo spest e da shinant a halet ala jo alia go be bonnet zado listi khoje here essential providing essential service to our Navajo people ko ilahit ko do jo da to mimic alin haki da ko do I don't know if it's appropriate for me to ask that all Navajo offices to be back in full in operations, and then we as Navajo Nation Council start attending in person. So again, it doesn't make sense for us to be telecommunicating, but yet we're allowing non-Navajo people to come onto the Navajo Nation. So Speaker, I need your guidance and direction, and maybe ask our legislative council that maybe for another amendment after my chair's amendment that how can we also include all essential services to be fully open back so that our Navajo people will continue to address their issues or concerns or whatever service that they need, that they do in-person meetings at these local community businesses or government services or agency services. Again, if they could be combined with this amendment, maybe legislative council could guide me to say that, okay, I can ask my motioning party for the second amendment to include all Navajo businesses as well, government offices. Chairman.
Let's see. In this legislation specifically on Untitled, it states that approving a reopening of Navajo Nation tribal parks. And now we have included the roadways. I'm not too sure if we can get the amendment in time. I'd have to ask the legislative council if they can do it in time. One, colleagues, let me just remind everyone that time now is 12:47. We have Naabik'íyáti committee for another hour and 16 minutes, 14 minutes, 13 minutes. And we do have 1, 2, 3, 4 other legislations on here. Maybe that amendment, what you're saying, Honorable Keon Begay, could be done, but I don't know. Maybe that's something that can be considered at the Navajo Nation Council session later on this afternoon. But let me turn the time over to Ms. Khan or Ms. Barbroff, and there are many legislations that we passed last summer, last spring, that clarified a lot of these efforts of closure or restoring and maintaining responsible government in helping assist to amend some of these laws in order for us to, like you indicated on Count Begay, to have that telecommunity authority, or to have the chapters have that authority too as well. But at this time, I think one of the biggest things is that these allowable efforts are wanting to be reopened 100% due to the status of them being outside. I'm not too sure if there's any amendments withholding right now on amending any of these institutions while they're inside. I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, Office Legislative Council, I think the ruling still stands on indoor activities. I think this is just something that's for outside activities only, but I could be wrong. on that response. The other one, though, Honorable Keon-Begay, is I'm not too sure if we can get all that information collectively, because it did take a lot of research in order for Office of Legislative Counsel to get these amendments to where they're at today, and having to correct them multiple times because of the different recognition, or actually the different overlaps of different levels of closures. So let me go back to Office of Legislative Counsel for further detail.
Thank you, Speaker. I appreciate Delegate Keon-Begay's request. My recommendation is that that be done in a separate legislation, which will give us the time to pull everything together. It will, as you identified, take a fair amount of time to put that together. And as you're correct, this legislation, its purpose was to open the tribal parks. It's very specific to that. And it also includes a reopening plan for businesses operating within the tribal parks and recreation sites. So to open up all of the Navajo Nation offices, businesses, and such, that is different than what the purpose of the original legislation. Just to be quick about this, the Office of Legislative Counsel cannot get the amendments that Delegate Begay is requesting. We certainly can't get those done by NABI. It's questionable that we get them done by council, because we haven't been provided any reopening plans for general businesses. We haven't been provided those reopening plans if you're going to completely open the government. So that's my recommendation, or my thoughts. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much. With that, colleagues, I don't know, I can go back to you now, Honorable Keon-Begay, if there's any further response or recommendations, but as indicated, be highly recommended to, especially if there's no reopening plans for the facilities like the government, or reintegration plans that we've developed. We, just as an example, Honorable Keon-Begay, I think that to this day, the Speaker's office and the legislative branch is the only one that has an approved reintegration plan that was approved by NOSHA. And I don't know if any of those other ones have been approved yet. Those take some time that you just have to sit down with individuals at NOSHA in order for those reintegration plans to actually get approved. Honorable Keon-Begay. So, but again, Honorable Keon-Begay, if there's any further comment, I can turn the floor back over to you.
Point of order.
Point of order. Point of order by Honorable Otto So.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, what happened to my response? To my question.
I'm going back to
Honorable Raymond Smith, and then you went to Keon-Begay, and I'm buried somewhere, and my questions are buried there. Just wondering what happened to my response. Thank you.
Honorable Otto So, I was going to go back from Honorable Keon-Begay's response, and I did indicate I was going back to Honorable Paul Begay, but I did not know at that time that there was going to be an amendment to the individual that was raised by Honorable Vice Chair Smith after you. So when I get back to the main motion, that I will definitely go immediately back to Honorable Paul Begay to answer your question. With that, if there's no further response on amendment number 1 or amendment 2, colleagues. Going twice.
Speaker
3
Keelan.
times. Honorable Keelan Begay.
I thought you were just going to address Mr. Delegate So's point of order and then come back to me. But based on the response from the
I did
legislative
call
council,
on you, Honorable Keelan Begay, but you didn't respond. The floor is yours, Honorable Keelan Begay.
thank you, sir. Based on the response by the legislative council, again, either way, if we just go with what we're saying that only the roads and only the parks need, but these particular oversight programs will be in full operation. Nonetheless, Department of Transportation will be in full operation maintaining these particular roads. Division of Natural Resource under Parks and Recreation will be in full force. I mean, they're part of the Navajo Nation government, so we're excluding them in as far as the safekeeping of the plans that we're trying to put in place. Navajo Nation government has to take part in full operation to be there, especially our rangers. They'll be in full force again. But yet, on the other hand, we're saying that Navajo Nation government operation a lot of our Navajo Nation program that will be have some interest in these particular area that we're opening will be in full force of be in full time working again. So that's my point, Speaker. So, but I'll go ahead and go along with what the Legislative Council had recommended. Speaker.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions on amendment number 2?
Speaker, this is Delegate Charles Newton.
Yes, Madam Chair, Charles Newton, on amendment number 2, floor is yours.
Thank you, Speaker. I just need this clarification. So Amendment 2 is pertaining just to the lakes and fishing. There hasn't been another amendment added to this amendment. Is that correct?
No. There's been no modifications
That's
to
all I
this
need.
amendment.
Thank you, Speaker.
Okay. That, colleagues, any other comments, questions on amendment number 2? Going twice. Honorable Yellow Hair on amendment number 2.
Yeah, okay, good afternoon, Speaker, Navajo Nation Council, Council Councilman. All the entity session and we just threw a lot of legislation, answer questions into just support. We need to support this legislation. So now that it is such not done, I know, let's vote on it. Take care of this business right now. All of these things are a shame. We got legislation planning the higher. Let's vote on this legislation once and for all. Let's take care of our community. I want to know about this thing, don't you? And it's not on the councilman. Go ahead, Speaker. Give me the floor. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Honorable Yellow Hair. With that, colleagues, any other comments, questions at this time?
Speaker, this is Delegate Crotty with the question.
Yes, Madam Chair, Amber Crotty, floor is yours on amendment number 2.
Thank you, Speaker, on amendment number 2. I appreciate the amendment. I did want to ask if I did ask in amendment 1 regarding the position of the Health Command Center. What I see is that there's a lot of conversation from my colleagues regarding the amendments, or what amendments can be created at this time. I'd like to ask if we could if someone from the Health Command can provide answers in terms of why these considerations are not, or the recommendations, what can we do as a nation to modify these emergency health orders? I understand we're putting language withstanding the health orders, but I think there's room here to either request to, I'm not sure if there was a request to modify. If I could get further clarification on that, Speaker, I think that would help as I'm hearing, and the concerns that we have as we reopen and reopening safely. If I could get that understanding in terms of with the recommendations made from Health Command, Navajo Health Command, and how we're hearing now. And I support, I know that there's been a lot of challenges with our Navajo vendors and how we safely reopen. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. I'm not too sure if Dr. Jill Jim is on the line to answer that question from the command center. I know Chief Paulson Chaco, if you're on the line, I don't know if there's any way that you could get Dr. Jill Jim to address that question. We're reaching out to Dr. Jill Jim too as well on our side. Or if there's any other further recommendation, Chief Paulson Chaco, who might be able to answer that question. I have Dr. Jill Jim, who's just confirmed that she's getting on the call. You might have to press *6, Dr. Jill Jim.
Speaker, this is Dr. Jim, and I'm on the call.
Okay, great. Dr. Jim, I don't know if you heard that question, and most likely you'd be the most the best individual to relate to clarify that answer.
Thank you, Speaker. Just for clarification, can I just have the question repeated? Thank you.
Madam Chair, Amber Crotty, if it's possible.
Yes, thank you, Speaker, Dr. Jill Jim. My question was, there's a lot of amendments. The nature of this legislation is requiring a lot of amendments first to update and reference the public health orders. And so in looking at that, has there been conversation with Health Command in and the impact of these Navajo industries, the economic impact, and how they can safely reopen, taking into the consideration of what this legislation is will authorize. So I just need to understand when how Health Command develops their positions, what's the criteria, and then if there's a way, because I feel like there's a way that we can modify these health orders to accommodate this request. So that was my question, and also if there's any recommendations as we move forward. And in hearing from my colleagues, it sounds like there is support to open up the Navajo Nation. So the last order was that I received was, and is the last order May 21st, and so that's been approximately 4 weeks. So, I'm sorry, 2 weeks. And so is there another public order plan to be issued to update some of these protocols? Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. That, Dr. Jill Jim, floor is yours.
Yes, good afternoon, Speaker, also Shema, for asking that question, and the 24th Council for having this discussion regarding reopening the Navajo Nation parks and stuff. I just want to first let you know that we do have specific indicators for making decisions on the level of transmission of COVID-19. We put together various data regarding the level of, at different levels, either it's in purple, red, orange, yellow, or green. And those decisions are made, we have to meet those specific benchmarks in order to move from one color to the next. Because if the transmission of COVID is high, obviously we look at mitigation strategies, meaning how do we move or adjust certain levels of how people are either should shelter in place or either stay at home or access to certain services. And so those indicators are based off of other evidence that is collected from the scientific community to make those decisions. Some of them are based on the trending of the disease, and we have been on a downward trajectory since January, and all due to, I would say, is the vaccine, access to vaccines for our people. We also look at making adjustments to the new number of new cases per day. And so since vaccines have been introduced, we are looking at breakthrough cases. For example, individuals that have been vaccinated but still get COVID. That's the reality of the disease. We are also facing like unvaccinated individuals or more being identified as new cases. For example, we have a conversation recently regarding the UK variant. We understand in some communities like Shiprock is at a high amount of cases compared to other areas right now. And it could be due to these new variants that are out there. So we're not technically out of the woods because we are seeing a lot more cases. Our vaccine rates is not something that's in the indicator, but it is in a direct association, I would say, with the level of transmission in the Navajo, on the Navajo Nation. So right now, in order for us to get to green, we would have to be achieving around less than 15 cases per week. We are getting there, but we're not there yet. So we're still in yellow, and meaning we're at 50%. And when businesses completely reopen, we would be, I guess, completely free of this virus. And we also have an infection rate. We look at the level of infection. We also look at the testing capacity, making sure that we're less than 3%, which we, or 5% or 8% in the yellow, which we are. We also have to look at the number of contact tracers available if there is a new surge. And we also look at hospitalization data as well related to COVID. We are experiencing hospitalizations for non-COVID cases that we're hearing reports from health facilities. So it's not directly related to COVID, but because we believe that there was probably delayed care during the pandemic. So our hospitals are not functioning normal to some extent. They haven't completely opened their entire services as well, but they're moving in that direction. And of course, like I mentioned with vaccine data here on the Navajo Nation is very difficult to combine to get information about age groups and also gender or specific communities, just because that our healthcare systems don't talk to each other, not even within Indian Health Service and 638. And we are not getting full cooperation from all the health facilities to get record level data right now to give us a good picture of what our vaccination rate could be. We understand the Biden administration is aiming for a 70% herd immunity, and we're working every single day to get the data that we need. We do get simple data without looking at community or age, or without community, gender, or age groups that can be done on a regular basis, but I won't give us the breakdown that we need because of the challenges that I had talked about. So before the age expansion of the Pfizer vaccine to 12 to 15-year-olds, we were at 59% of our vaccine rate. When I was hearing numbers earlier from others, those numbers are probably reflecting the 1 doses, not the fully vaccinated. So there's numbers for the 1 doses and fully vaccinated. The 1 dose, I haven't got an updated number on, but as of this morning, I'm trying to look for an email, but I know with the vaccine surveillance group, we are looking at about 41% if we do add the new age range from 12 to 15 years old. So we're only calculating those that are eligible for the vaccine for 12 years old and older. So we have a lot of work to do, and we're talking about challenges of getting people vaccinated. And in today's town hall, we talked about some misconceptions about vaccine, where there are individuals that are thinking if they get COVID, they don't need a vaccine shot, or either that maybe the safety of the vaccine or not. So there are concerns in the health community right now to continue to get more people vaccinated so we can open up more. I think that we can achieve that even though our numbers are low. We are not seeing 0 cases. We have 0 cases certain days, and with the understanding that we had a holiday, we don't know if that was the impact for some of the 0 days. And so we won't see if our vaccine efforts are well, we would have to consider looking at any sort of gathering or situation that happens. The common rule between the decisions that we make is when there is a holiday, or if there are public health emergency orders that are lifted, most likely we observe that for about 3 weeks, or either when we say if cases are going to increase, we look at the incubation period from the time of exposure or time of event. So if there's a lot of people that gathered over this holiday weekend, and flea markets and swamp meets are open to the Navajo people, so that was in the last public health order. So right now we'll be monitoring cases. Most likely, if our vaccines are effective and working, we shouldn't see any cases within the next 7 to 14 days, meaning that we are able to be able to move. I mean, I think this holiday weekend would be one demonstration, lifting restrictions. We do them slowly and gradually, and we don't do them all of a sudden, because we do have certain procedures in place to make those decisions, and reassurance that the decisions that we make don't cause a large impact. And if it does, and then we look at to see if it's a sustained rebound, and then we go back up or down in their decision making. But most likely, we have been in a consistent plateau for a very long time. It's just that the number of cases are not completely going down, even though we would want it to go down. But our health professionals are having these conversations on an ongoing basis. And so those are kind of the processes that we go through. And these are all done under the Health Command Center with collaboration with tribal health organizations and 638 facilities, including Indian Health Service. If you're not familiar with the entire Health Command Operations Center, there are participation from all the health facilities, including federal and state partners in most of these efforts. There's a team that is specifically working on reporting numbers daily. There is a team looking at vaccine efforts. There is a team looking at the gating measures. There's a team looking at hospitalization data. There is a team looking at the COVID patients and making sure they get food or boxes or assistance if need be. There's a team that's related to contact tracing and case management and reporting those on a timely basis. There is a whole team on public health messaging, and also working with the public information officers to make sure that we get information out. There is a new mental health coalition that has been created out of this effort to address long-term issues regarding mental health. There is a team that looks at post-COVID as well. The detrimental impact of COVID is really unknown, but there is a team looking at what is to come, because even though we are seeing low numbers right now, a lot of patients that have recovered from COVID are going to experience long-term impacts that we don't know. And so there is that ongoing impact. And I always want to mention that we are still in a major disaster declaration, and to some extent. And so we're continually working on how to address this pandemic, even though our numbers are kind of low. Everything may seem sort of normal, but I just want to recommend looking at just the gradual process that we've done. And yes, Shama, that these public health orders can address what you're asking, what's being asked here in regards to lifting restrictions, and also going forward, I think we can find a way to communicate that internally if needed. Otherwise, open for questions. But we do have presentations that we do every week regarding the gating criteria. So the team is working basically 24/7 to get this data out on a weekly basis on Mondays for the team to make decisions. The UCG members come together every Wednesday to develop objectives for the week. And so I just want to offer that kind of overview of how the command center is currently still operating. We have not closed down shop. We are still addressing a lot of this on an ongoing and daily basis. So thank you for the time for me to share my comments. And
Thank you very much, Dr. Chojim. That, colleagues, everybody else in the queue, any further comments on amendment number 2?
Speaker, this is Delegate Charles Newton.
Yes, Madam Chair Charleston.
Thank you, Speaker. I believe that I did ask this question before when President Naz gave his State of the Nation address back in January, and it was never answered. And it was brought up again today. The color coding or the benchmarks that are currently being put in place here on the Navajo Nation. When did that get established? And what colors are you guys using? Because you said, Dr. Jim, you said green for 15 cases per week or less, and then yellow is currently where we're at now. But where can I get that information? And when did you guys come up with this color coding system? Thank you.
Go back to you, Dr. Jojo.
Yeah, the color coding system, I believe started a while back ago. I have to look at my records here. But that's been ongoing. In regards to that, I'm gonna have to look at my information here in regards to the color coding system. And I think we're always open to having a presentation regarding the gating criteria. A lot of this likely goes back. We're on our, I don't know what report this is. I don't have a reporting number on here, but I would have to get back with you. I don't have, I'm not on the Zoom on my computer where I can show the information, but if I could address that through an email, I can do that. And then what was the second question again?
Chair Charleston.
Thank you, Speaker. The email is fine, and I can go ahead and email you other questions that I have regarding the color coding. The reason why I asked that question in regards to this amendment and this legislation as a whole is because the color coding obviously will impact the opening process that we are currently proposing at this point, not only with the monuments and the parks and recreations, and then now with Amendment 2 with lakes and fishing. But, you know, we also have to consider, as Delegate Kealan Begay spoke about, you know, the essential businesses that provide services to our Navajo people, and how, you know, how do we go about opening and moving forward. And so I think that the color coding system is really important. But at the same time, you know, it is something new that I became aware of probably in January, and I think that that was the time when it was being discussed during the Navajo Nation State of the Nation address, and I did ask that question, and again, it was never answered. But I think in terms of this legislation, what I'm looking at is a lot of these, like the tours, a lot of the, like the fishing, that's all done outside. And so I kind of feel like I'm getting conflicting information because I hear President Biden talking about how, you know, if you're vaccinated, you know, that you don't have to wear your mask when you're outside. And then I think recently he also stated that you don't have to wear your mask in certain places inside if you're vaccinated. And then here in New Mexico, the entire state of New Mexico is turquoise, which means, you know, the numbers are down. And the Navajo Nation does span across 3 states, Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah. So it's kind of almost like the entire Navajo Nation is being put on yellow status, maybe because one part of the Navajo Nation may not have their numbers in control. And then as far as your comment about shiprock, I actually spoke with some doctors this past week, and they said that they didn't have any reporting and our numbers were low. So it's really interesting to hear now that you're saying that the numbers are high. So I'm starting to, again, you know, I feel like there's just so much conflicting information at this point. And in regards to the amendment and this legislation, the important thing for me is that all of these recreational, I guess, activities are done outside. So with your color coding system, how does that apply to activities that are done outside? Thank you.
Thank you for that follow-up question, Madam Chair Charles. With that, Dr. Jill Jim, let me go back to you.
Yeah, if I can share my screen, speaker, just so I can reference, is that okay to do?
Yes, you have that capability.
So if you guys can see my screen, here's the information about the color coding system. In regards to outdoors and when we think about COVID in general, we did complete the tour. So we do have a safety team, just for your information, that reviews these guidelines for graduation. So for tourism, businesses, and parks, that's been done. So there's already guidelines. So if this were to happen today, the businesses are aware that the Health Command Center provided specific recommendations for them to safely operate. And then in the previous public health orders, it states that they work with Division of Economic Development to submit their plan. So that's been done. The only problem, I think, what we're seeing is that we're not open to everybody. So parks and tribal parks and lakes, museums, zoos, all are operating at 50% right now. And so I think I just want to make that clear, to relook at the public health orders clearly. Of course, the casinos are open too. We often get questions about Twin Arrows too, but it's not really our decision. We're allowing them. The only one that internally that we're still not really looking at is Flowing Water, just because it's a small condensed mobile unit like area. Otherwise, all other areas are open, and that's at the discretion of DNR and the enterprise to open those to the public. So I just want to make that reference in regards to maybe those that are wondering why they're not open. That's not up to the command center. They're already been allowed to open. And so these are the numbers that we're looking at. And so, of course, all of this is at a rebound. This is the numbers that we've been following for months, and I would have to backdate and try to give you that answer when this started. But it's been there for a while for us to make decisions, and that's why anytime you see a public health order that said red status, orange status, or yellow status, is when we were initiating and implementing the gating criteria at that time for businesses to operate. If there wasn't a time, I think if there's no color reference to it, that's probably when there wasn't a public health emergency order reflecting the reopening plan. So I just want to make that clear. Public health orders, like for businesses, are done separately from other types of public health orders. So those are standalone public health orders. So we are definitely clear on how we're providing recommendations for businesses and not tribal government. If you look at the reopening page for the Navajo reopening page, there's specific guidance for businesses, and under there on that map, it specifically says not for tribal governmental businesses. And the reason why that it references that is because the tribal governments have their ability to adjust how to open based on going up or down in what we feel safe. So, for example, the Department of Health here, we've been operating probably more than 70% the entire pandemic, and we're fully operating to some extent. So each division or branch or government has the ability to make those adjustments, and that's what they've been given that as. So we don't really say how much they can operate, but they have the decision to use some of this information based on the level of community spread to determine what is safe at the time. So right now, like with these low cases, that's where we're at. And outdoors, so when safety guidelines are coming out, we do look at outdoor and indoor. A lot of indoor stuff wasn't really being allowed, or isn't to some extent. And so we're starting to have conversations with our safety team, and then making sure we have guidelines in place. And I always state to our team that I can't issue out a public health order by today, by next week, if I don't have the safety team work on specific guidelines. So it takes a while, I mean, for the guidelines to be in place. I have to make sure that it has been thoroughly discussed within the state. And these are, the safety team does include NOSHA, the risk management, and also Indian Health Service, their environmental team, and also the Navajo Environmental Office of Health, the one that oversees food handlers. So that's, and then including other people that want to join from the health command team. So those are the individuals that have been issuing out these safety guidelines, and we rely on them as Navajo people, the Navajo Nation, to make sure that we do these safely. And because that's in their realm of work, that's what they do on an everyday basis. They do inspections, they look at food operations, but that ties back all the way into the responding to when we identify cases, not only in schools, but in businesses. There has to be assurance that if there's a person that tests positive in a business or a school or at the tribal government office, that is thoroughly reported to the local health facilities so contact tracing can be done, and a person or persons can be put into isolation and get tested. And so that's why we have a portal, and then we also work with the health facilities to get that all done. So when we're looking at lifting these restrictions, which we have been slowly, we now have the flea markets open. Some things that we're working on right now are walks, runs, motorcycle rides, these things that are events that people want to do this summer, but we have to develop guidelines. We looked at the transit plan, so we work with divisions to make sure their plans are really intact and are addressing all the COVID-19 practices. So we did work with Division of General Services and their transit plan, and agreed that they have a good plan. When the tourism was brought up, we worked with DNR, we reviewed their plan, and then also offered, in addition, recommendations for the tour companies. So we are starting to look at meeting options too. We will be issuing out larger recommendations for meeting options as we're moving forward. I know people want to start moving. I know there's travel restrictions within the executive branch that we get asked about, and we provide recommendations back to them in order to make sure there are safe travel restrictions that are still being practiced. So to get to your questions about outdoor and indoor, we are slowly reopening. It will take some time, but it has to have some specific guidelines and how our people will move. And so now we're here today having this conversation, and I'm glad that we are. So I'm able to update you guys on some of the work that we're doing. I hope I answered your question, Honorable Newton Charles. Yeah.
Speaker, I got a question. Also.
Okay, with that, move back to the floor. I don't have anybody else in the queue. Also, floor is yours on amendment number 2.
Speaker, I also have a follow-up.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Ms. Dr. Jim, I did ask a question earlier to the sponsor and to see if there was any collaboration between the tribal programs involved pertaining to this particular legislation, where we have the divisions, programs that are directly affected, that will be directly affected, having a conversation pertaining to this particular legislation. And I just wanted to see how much recommending. The other is we talked about the health code colors related to the orange, purple, green, whatever level. I'm not sure what level we're at. But these codes, these colors, who created them, who approved them, and I'm wondering if you got the oversight committee to approve to
have these color mechanism to measure the severity of the pandemic. I'm just wondering if we got oversight approval for these colors coding. Thank you. We'll go back on mute.
Thank you. Before I go back to you, Dr. Jim, I think Madam Chair Charles Newton has a follow-up question. Colleagues, please keep in mind the time now is 1:34. We still have to take a vote on Amendment 2 and on the main motion. There are 4 legislations pending, including the one that Honorable Freeland asked about, and that was the one specifically to have this NABI about, and that was extend the procurement process for heavy equipment for the chapters. With that, Madam Chair Charles Newman, the floor is yours.
Yes, Speaker. So I did ask the question of the outdoor activities, and basically I'm going to, I guess, try to state my question again. So right now, Dr. Jim, you said that all outdoor activities open at 50%, and that you guys are currently working with, I guess, other activities like walks and runs and the flea market. My question to you, just straightforward, is do you recommend or do you support this current legislation that is before you? Thank you.
With that, I'll go back to you, Dr. Jim.
Thank you, Speaker. I want to just address Honorable, so your questions first regarding the oversight of the approval. I did not get oversight of the gating metrics. I believe that the Commission of Emergency Management gave me the authority to respond to the pandemic. I'm not sure how that will legally be interpreted, so I would need further advice on your recommendation on that, as I am also would defer to that sort of advice. And so the gating metrics criteria, like I said, is based off of scientific publications by Harvard University. States across the country are using similar and the same metrics and to make decisions. Every state and jurisdiction are required to have a reopening plan. I guess maybe I shouldn't say required, it might be recommended, as states have their own ability to govern themselves as well as we do. And the White House and CDC initially provided a framework for states to make decisions and put plans together for the businesses to reopen. The concept of businesses reopen is not something that was independently put together just because we wanted to. It is a basic structure to the whole United States response to the pandemic. And that is how we modified and adjusted based on what we're doing. But most of the indicators in there are measures and that are being followed by states in order to make decisions. To what extent they want to be stricter or not stricter is up to them. But the level of impact we had on the Navajo Nation, this is what we came up with. I think one thing that we have to remember is that we are the hardest hit possibly, and compared to other ethnicity groups and other tribal nations. And I think these benchmarks are really gauge the way we were able to respond and have it as a tool for decision making. So I just want to state that this is something that is being done not only here but elsewhere as well, and also is backed up by certain ways of community or COVID mitigation strategies. I guess they would
relate to that. And these same metrics also support schools and other sectors opening and not opening. So they're not new, but we also can be compared against other states as well when the numbers go up and down. So it's a good tool that we use. So, but I didn't get oversight approval. In regards to the outdoor, there is different interpretation of outdoor in the public health emergency order. One thing when you look at outdoor is the social gathering. As well, there's a 15 limit. We don't specifically say outdoor activities. I mean, when there were weekend lockdowns, people were still allowed to exercise, get wood and all these things. But there is outdoor can be addressed in any way. And within the public health orders, there's drive-in is allowed, that's outdoor. There is also just the flea markets. They're operating outdoors. Those are activities that can be done outdoors. And so I think the level of, when I say 50%, it's related to the business occupancy, maximum occupancy of those that can operate, like campgrounds, RV parks, and lodging, all are allowed to open at 50%. The zoo is outdoor, which is at 50%. The lakes, going fishing, that's outdoor. There's no 50%. I don't know what the capacity would be, but it's outdoor. And so there has to be a common way to understand how we allow the number of people to safely practice social distancing, or physical distancing is the reason behind a lot of these decisions around that. But the more we get people vaccinated, the less cases that we see. We're moving in that direction. And so I always have to let even our health professionals, when we have conversation at times, let them know we need to just go gradually and we will eventually get there. But for some areas like this, I do encourage a conversation on understanding some of these metrics that we can certainly present on a regular basis if needed. But we have supported the divisions, and we work with them, as I mentioned. We work with DNR with their reopening plan. We also work with them in providing guidelines for tour businesses and companies. So I believe to some extent the Health Command has worked with them to support their efforts and being open, but they are already allowed to be open. And I just want to reiterate that and thank you for the time. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, we do have about 18 minutes until we have to stop this Naabik'íyáti committee. We are on Amendment 2. Is there any further questions on Amendment 2? Twice. Went 3 times. Let's go to board on Amendment 2.
Honorable Almer Begay. Honorable Almer Begay. Honorable Almer Begay did not vote. Honorable Almer Begay Jr.
Delga Kell votes green.
Honorable Calvin Begay Jr. votes green.
Almer Begay votes green too.
Honorable Paul Begay Jr.
Delegate Paul Begay votes green.
Honorable Paul Begay Jr. votes green. Honorable Almer Begay votes green. Honorable Nathaniel Brown. Honorable Nathaniel Brown. Honorable Nathaniel Brown did not vote. Honorable Junior Charles Newton.
Charles Newton votes green.
Honorable Junior Charles Newton votes green. Honorable Amber Knislak Hardy. Honorable Amber Knislak Hardy. Honorable Amber Knislak Hardy did not vote. Honorable Herman Daniels Jr.
Oh, yes.
Honorable Herman Daniels Jr. votes green. Honorable Mark Freeland.
Green.
Honorable Mark Freeland votes green. Honorable Pinal Halona.
Halona votes green.
Honorable Pinal Halona votes green. Honorable Jamie Henya.
Mahaney votes green.
Honorable Jay Mahaney votes green. Honorable Vince James. Honorable Vince James. Honorable Vince James did not vote. Honorable Richie Nance.
Delegate Rick Nez votes green.
Honorable Richie Nance votes green. Honorable Carl Slater. Honorable Carl Slater via text votes green. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr.
Green.
Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. votes green. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr.
Green.
Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. votes green. Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So does not vote. Honorable Daniel So.
I vote green.
Honorable Daniel So votes green. Honorable Eugene So.
Daniel So votes green. That was Honorable Charlene So right before me.
Honorable Daniel So votes green. Honorable Eugene So. Honorable Eugene So. Honorable Eugene So did not vote. Honorable Otto So.
I vote green.
Honorable Otto So votes green. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable
I
Thomas
vote
Walker
green.
Jr. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. votes green. Honorable Edison Monica. Honorable Edison Monica votes green. Honorable Evan Yazi. Honorable Evan Yazi.
Green. Green.
Honorable Evan Yazi votes green. Honorable Jamil Reha.
I vote green.
Honorable Jamil Reha votes green. Going back up. Honorable Nathaniel Brown. Honorable Nathaniel Brown. Honorable
Delegate
Nathaniel
Brown
Brown
votes
did not.
green.
Honorable Nathaniel Brown votes green. Honorable Amber Kenneth-Carty. Honorable Amber Kenneth-Carty.
Delegate Amber Kenneth-Carty votes green.
Honorable Amber Kenneth-Carty votes green. Honorable Vince James. Honorable Vince James. Honorable Vince James did not vote. Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So.
Green.
Honorable Charlene So votes green. Honorable Eugene So. Honorable Eugene So. Honorable Eugene So did not vote. With that, Mr. Speaker, you have a vote of 21 in favor and 0 opposed. Mr. Speaker.
This is Delegate James. I vote green.
Honorable Vince James votes green. Mr. Speaker, you have a vote of 22 in favor and 0 opposed. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. That colleague's 22 in favor, 0 opposed. And Chair not voting on Amendment 2. Back to the main motion of Honorable Elmer Begay on the main motion.
Speaker, can you put me in the queue box, Freeland?
Elmer Begay on the main motion. Well, Freeland will put you in the queue box. Remember, colleagues, this legislation still can be acted on in council. Elmer Begay.
Okay. Thank you, Speaker. Yeah, hello, members of the Naabik'íyáti committee. My question goes to Chanel, Delegate Paul Begay. I was trying to listen to the legislation where it could read that the plan for reopening the national parks and Navajo Nation parks and recreation. I wanted to know that what is the plan from the division directors or the director of parks and recreation. It's not included into that the legislation. What is their plan for what was working with the operators, Navajo Nation business people that are tour guides and operators to the national tribal parks. And I would say that as an entity, Navajo Nation government, they should be helping the Navajo people how they could maybe discuss
what was the best way to do it and how they could do that. Again, it seems like right now these tribal programs are not working with the programs out there, how they could reopen some of these entities. I would say that these people need help. I would say that I would rely on them to help our people, the operators. It seems like there's nothing that they're just waiting, or I don't know what they're really waiting for, but then there should be a plan put together for these operators as well as for the people, the visitors or the tourists. So that will be my question, Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. With that question, let me go back to, and the question from Honorable Otto. So back to Honorable Paul Begay. Honorable Paul Begay, time now is 1:50, colleagues.
Thank you, Chair. Speaker, I don't thank you for the questions. 10 minutes. I don't know. A kid, the Nestle, our business people that they know they own hands. We are, as delegates, are there to help our people. They voice their reasons why they should open. They have made it clear of their hardships. Although they went straight to the president's office, executive branch, emails, phone calls. Sometimes they run into the president. They voice their opinion, their concerns with them. But we as delegates, our job is to listen to our constituents. In this case, as any other legislation, we sponsor legislations for the voices of our constituents. This is no different than that. I don't believe I need to go to the president and ask him to consider this. He has a heart. That's all it is. A year and a half is now. All these divisions and branches and entities are different in their respective way. They can be addressed by a separate legislation. This is almost like an emergency. The business, it's going downhill. Some of them, you've heard their cry. We lost our vehicles. We can't support our children. That's what we should be listening to right now. The plans, the Honorable Delegate Elmer Begay, the plans were submitted by these businesses to those that have requested the plans. It has been submitted to the Division of Natural Resources, to the Division of Community Development. We've learned in a year and a half how to protect ourselves, how to protect others as business people. It's time to help them. And I hope we do it in less than 6 minutes that we have left. Thank you.
Colleagues, I got Freeland, Honorable Daniels in the queue. Colleagues, if we run out of time, right now is 1:53 p.m. All the amendments will die and stay here at Nabi. Honorable Freeland, the floor is yours.
Speaker, I do have an amendment.
Point of privilege.
Honorable Freeland,
Speaker.
you can just remind you that you can do your amendment at council session too as well. Point of privilege.
Okay. I'll wait till council. I'll wait till council then.
Honorable Daniels. Our Honorable Chairman. So
I was going to emphasize that Shanant, the amendments you have in hand, please, let's take it to the council. Let's vote on this legislation.
Moving on down, Honorable Herman Daniels, floor is yours.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I'm ready to vote without that. Council session, special session amendment by the IC. Thank you, Speaker.
Okay, with that, colleagues, any other comments, questions on legislation 0076-21 at this time? Going twice. Going 3 times. Rico, second reading.
Mr. Speaker, members of the Naabik'íyáti Committee, you have 2 amendments. Amendment number 1, Exhibit A, Exchange Public Health Emergency Order number 2021-005 with Public Health Order number 2021-11. 2, page 1, lines 17 and 18, amend as follows. After area at, overstrike orange status and insert 100%. After emergency orders, insert related to COVID-19, overstrike 2021-05. Overstrike and supporting the continued implementation of the Division of Economic Development's business reopening plan for businesses operating within the above-mentioned Navajo Nation parks and recreation sites at orange status, notwithstanding public health emergency order number 2021-5. 3, delete RDC amendment number 1 in its entirety. 4, page 3, lines 4, 6, delete paragraph D in its entirety and insert new language as follows. New paragraph D, public health emergency order number 2021-11, attached as Exhibit A at page 1, paragraph 3, states the Navajo Nation is experiencing a plateau of low cases with a slowed infection rate and no sustained rebound. 5, page 3, lines 7 to 29, delete paragraphs E, F, and G in their entirety. 6, page 3, 4, lines 31 through 4, delete paragraph H in its entirety. 7, page 4, lines 5 to 12, make the following changes. Paragraph I, after experiencing a overstrike gradual downward trajectory of new cases with a slowed infection rate and no sustained rebound, insert new language, plateau of low cases with a slowed infection rate and no sustained rebound. 8, page 4, lines 13 through 16, make the following changes. Paragraph J, new language in accordance with recent public health order, emergency orders, overstrike public emergency order 2021-05 states, and insert overstrike after reopening, insert overstrike in orange status at the end of the sentence. Okay, that's good. 9, page 5, lines 13 to 18, make the following changes. At section 3, overstrike orange status and insert 100%. At the last sentence, after emergency orders, insert related to COVID-19, overstrike number 2021-005. 10, page 5, lines 19 to 23, make the following changes. After Dene Heritage Area at the overstrike orange status, insert 100%. After emergency orders, insert related to COVID-19 number 2021-005. 11, page 5 through 6, lines 25 to 30, 1 through 8, delete section 4 in its entirety. Page 1, line 23, amend as follows. At the end of line 23, overstrike 2021-009 and insert related to COVID-19. 2, on page 6, line 10, amend section 5 as follows. After emergency orders, overstrike 2021-009 and insert related to COVID-19. Within the paragraph, overstrike 2021-005 and insert related to COVID-19. Also attached is a new Exhibit A, which is Public Health Order, Emergency Order number 2021-11. Amendment number 2, page 1 at line 13, insert the following underlined language. After approving a reopening of, insert all Navajo Nation lakes and parks, including. 2, page 2, line 9, insert the following language after Recreation Department and the Department of Fish and Wildlife. 3, page 5, line 13, after reopening of, insert new language, all Navajo Nation lakes and parks, including. 4, page 5, line 19 and line 23, insert the following new language after reopening of, insert all Navajo Nation lakes and parks, including. After the end of the paragraph, insert new sentence, all Navajo Nation lakes shall be reopened by the Department of Fish and Wildlife as soon as adequate staff and funding become available. Renumber, reload or succeeding paragraph sections and exhibits according as necessary. This amendment shall supersede inconsistent language contained in any other committee amendment according to the intent or language of the amendment. The Office of Legislative Services, the notice of the sponsor of legislation hereby authorized to make necessary grammatical changes. Mr. Speaker.
Let's go to the vote.
Honorable Elmer Begay. Honorable
I'll vote
Elmer
green.
Begay.
I'll vote green.
Honorable Elmer Begay votes green. Honorable Kealan Begay Jr. Honorable Kealan
Kealan
Begay Jr.
Jr. votes green.
Honorable Kealan Begay Jr. votes green. Honorable Paul Begay Jr.
Delegate Paul Begay votes green.
Honorable Paul Begay Jr. votes green. Honorable Nathaniel Brown.
Delegate Brown votes green.
Honorable Nathaniel Brown votes green. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton.
Charles Newton votes green.
Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton votes green. Honorable Amber Kniffel Carty.
Delegate Crotty votes green.
Honorable Amber Kniffel Carty votes green. Honorable Herman Daniels Jr.
I vote green.
Honorable Herman Daniels Jr. votes green. Honorable Mark Freeland. Honorable Mark Freeland.
Green. Green.
Honorable Mark Freeland votes green. Honorable Canal Halona.
Halona votes green.
Honorable Canal Halona votes green. Honorable Jamie Haniel. Honorable Jamie Haniel. Honorable Jamie Haniel did not vote. Honorable Vince James.
Delegate James votes green.
Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Ricky Nash.
Delegate Nez votes green.
Honorable Ricky Nash votes green. Honorable Carl Slater.
Delegate Slater green.
Honorable Carl Slater votes green. Honorable Randy Smith Jr. Honorable Randy Smith Jr. Honorable Randy Smith Jr. did not vote. Honorable Wilkie Stewart Jr. Honorable Wilkie Stewart Jr.
Green.
Honorable Wilkie Stewart Jr. votes green. Honorable Charlene So.
I vote green.
Honorable Charlene So votes green. Honorable Daniel So.
I vote green.
Honorable Daniel So votes green. Honorable Eugene So. Honorable Eugene So.
Oh, go ahead, please.
Honorable Eugene So votes green. Honorable Otto So.
Green.
Otto So.
Green.
Honorable Otto So votes green. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr.
I vote green.
Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. votes green. Honorable Edison Henrica. Honorable Edison Henrica votes green. Honorable Edwin Yazi. Honorable Edwin Yazi.
Green.
Honorable Edwin Yazi did not. Honorable Edwin Yazi votes green. Honorable Jimmy Ellahare.
I'll vote green.
Honorable Jimmy Ellahare votes green. Going back up. Honorable Jamie Haniel. Honorable Jamie Haniel. Honorable Jamie Haniel did not vote. Honorable Randy Smith Jr. Honorable Randy Smith Jr. Honorable Randy Smith Jr. did not vote. With that, Mr. Speaker, you have voted 21 in favor and 0 opposed. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. With a vote of 21 in favor, 0 opposed, motion carries. Now, colleagues, time now is 2 o'clock.
Motion to adjourn.
For the record, Vice Chair Smith did text in, so it changes the vote to 22 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting. We're clocked out. We don't need a motion to adjourn. Colleagues, give us about, we did time out at 2 o'clock p.m. this afternoon. For the record, Naabik'íyáti committee has ended. Now in a special council session, it will go